today was this and that I've brought.
I know.
So you don't have to be the middle to be forgotten.
That's true. I forget you all. It's not the first.
Jesus, are there any forks in the?
Here you are.
You want this one or a real one?
Oh, I know, do you have a
You want a
knife?
real one or this? I got a spoon
Here's
and
a spoon and knife.
That's
Tasha has one. There you go, right here.
I gave everybody a fork, a knife, and a spoon.
We should get started.
She's been.
Oh,
Maybe I
yeah,
get
right.
two.
I think you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, there you go. Hello. Well, it's 6 o'clock, and with that, the roll call is everybody's here today, and we're gonna start with our meeting tonight. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. And now we're gonna read a brief acknowledgement of land life. Senegal School District is located on the ancestral and unceded land of the Mukweva Ogron tribe, who have peacefully honored and cared for this land for thousands of years. We recognize that every member of the Senegal community continues to benefit from the use and occupation of this land. We acknowledge our responsibility to learn from the wisdom of the Ogron people and to consider how we might work to repair injustices and move forward together in honorable ways. And with that, we pass, I think before we approve the allegiance, we approve the agenda, we need to acknowledge that we have a live translation tonight. If you can please give the instruction for the people who need the translation.
Yes, good evening everyone. Buenas noches. Se utilizará la función de interpretación de Zoom para soporte en inglés y español. Todos los participantes de esta llamada deben seleccionar su idioma de preferencia haciendo clic en el idioma correspondiente cuando el anfitrión active la función de interpretación. Dicha función se encuentra en el panel de herramientas en el icono del globo terráqueo. El modo de interpretación para esta reunión será el simultáneo. Gracias por su atención y colaboración.
Thank you very much. And with that, the next point will be the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda as it is?
I move to approve tonight's agenda.
Okay,
second that.
Okay,
Do we need to ask for public comment?
anyone who, is there any public comment related to the approval of the agenda? Please raise your hand now.
None.
Seeing none, then we move forward. Do we have a vote on the agenda? Everybody, please say aye if you want to.
Aye.
Okay, with that, the agenda is approved. We have agenda. And we move to item number 3, which is the study session. Tonight, study session is with Mr. Paul Slayton, who is the Director of Student Support Services, and it will be the Extended Learning Opportunities Update for 2024-2025. Welcome, and thank you for this presentation tonight.
Thank you very much. Tonight we'll be discussing extended learning, mostly comparatively between what programs and services were offered last year, the plan for growth that we did entering this year, and then current status on where we sit and where some of the areas of growth are moving forward. I believe you all have a draft executive summary. The reason that's a draft is some of the current numbers of unduplicated students at each of the 10 schools. We didn't have those prepared. They're in process. What we didn't want was to double count and give a false number of how many unduplicated students are enrolled at each school. It's a little trickier than it sounds, so we wanted to make sure those numbers were clear, especially as they could inform how programs continue on. So the idea here, this falls most clearly in the strategic plan underneath. This is one of the ways we create structures for students to enrich their learning through experiences, such as advanced math, creative writing, language courses, arts, music, sports, summer activities, mentorship, and so on. Not all of these are in our after-school support programs, but the idea is that the after-school extended learning is one of the places where these are going to be able to occur. Just some brief defining of terms. There's a more extensive term definition section in your executive summary, but just for these few slides, KLAS is Kids Learning After School. This is actually, I think, in its 21st year in Sunnyvale, if we went through it correctly. KLAS is longstanding. It serves over 500 students at 7 school sites. We'll be going through exactly where that is. Aftercare is a term we've adopted to define the supports that exist from the end of the school day, usually until 6 p.m. Those take on a lot of different versions, some of which are new this year for Sunnyvale, and we'll be talking about those briefly. ACES is a funding source. It's not a program, but it's kind of been used interchangeably, along with ELOP. These are both acronyms for state grants that we use to partially fund some of our aftercare programs. Finally, the one that came up with the most questions is a vendor named Right at School. Right at School offers aftercare similar to what we do through KLAS, and we've teamed with them last year partially, and then a full year this year at 3 non-KLAS schools. So that would be Sunnyvale Middle, Cumberland, and Cherry Chase. Our basic overall goals for what we're doing with after school, as I try to keep talking while I click and it doesn't go. Jesus, you're welcome to push over there for me. Thank you. We want to start with, obviously, our guiding light of equity, that we're able to include all students, regardless of their background, to have equal access to and benefit from extended learning. One of our areas of learning this year is around children with extensive needs, and how do we create, or what do we create after school for children that do need more extensive special education supports when those staff aren't in our current after school programming. We also want to continue to offer something to the well-rounded whole child. This is why we do music and art and physical activity and academics. Choosing any of those exclusively doesn't match that whole child lens, which is what seems to be the most successful the longest term. One of the other guiding principles was around community collaboration. After school care is too big for a school district to take on, especially since in-classroom care and academics is our purpose and our mission. But we don't want to say we can't do after school care, nor can we say we can do it all. So one of our goals was to continue fostering partnership with local organizations and some community members. And we'll talk briefly about that as well. Finally, quality. We don't want to have kids sitting in the cafeteria watching videos, and we don't want to have such a regimented program that students don't want to participate. So somewhere in between those two guardrails is where we were headed. And then finally, sustainability. If we did an amazing one-year support and it drained us of resources and we were unable to continue, it wouldn't be meeting the needs of our high needs families. So we'll talk about how long-term commitment can hopefully continue. So last year, we had 4 tasks that we needed to accomplish. First was to strengthen the existing after-school programming. We had an after-school program that was going pretty well with hundreds of enrolled students. Some of the ways we strengthened last year were to start bringing in outside vendors, not buying off-the-shelf curriculum. Most of our KLAS staff are classroom paraprofessionals during the day. They do have educational jargon and mindsets, but bringing them an extensive curriculum and just saying, do this, we didn't feel that was the best way forward. So what we did to strengthen was continue their training in things like emergency response, parent communication, doing all the normal things we expect within the school day, but then partnering with some of the organizations we're going to talk about who specialize in bringing in coding or dance or music or sports. Our second task was to extend after-school learning to all 10 schools. And Dr. Dean worked with me to learn how to find vendors and then to kind of be able to evaluate whether they're the right fit for what we do. We did find a lot of people willing to run an after-school program, especially when you're talking about a financial partnership. We went through quite a few. We met a lot of people and settled on the ones we're going to discuss. And we do now have aftercare and after-school opportunities at no cost for ELOP qualified families at all 10 schools. We'll talk more about what that means and kind of an area that we need to grow in moving forward. Finally, last year, we wanted to look at sustainability along with increasing, and those two being together from the beginning of our planning, so we don't just scale up to the point where we can't sustain it. So comparing last year to this year, starting last year, there were 551 students enrolled in KLAS, and aftercare programs. Starting this year, as of I think earlier this week, we're at 698 students. Enrollment capacity is a little bit higher than that. We're not quite done loading in students that have expressed interest. There's a couple reasons for that we can discuss, but we've increased by over, I think it's 138 students this year. That has reached a pretty clear critical limit for facilities in one way, but also for staff. We can't have staff supervise larger and larger populations without removing their own children they're responsible for in the after-school program. So we're 20-1 for first grade through fifth grade. That's 20 students per one adult. Right now, our KLAS programs are run by a coordinator who also has 20 students under their care. So if we just increase numbers, we'll eventually reach the limit, and I think we've reached it, where that KLAS coordinator cannot supervise their 20 and then the 10 other staff members who also have 20 students. For TK and Kinder, it's 10 students per one adult, a little bit more of a small number as we started this year, but I think we've reached a limit unless we look at a change of model and a change of how we want to move forward. Sticking with the comparison from last year to this, just briefly, last year we started with aftercare at 7 schools. This year we have it at all 10. Last year we had a TK Kinder aftercare program at 1 school at the beginning. This year we're at 4 schools, 5 schools if we include the fact that Lakewood is running its own TK Kinder in KLAS. We started a pilot there to see if we can bring TK Kinder care into our KLAS structure. It might be possible for the 26-27 school year. We also partnered with City of Sunnyvale, who took on 4 of our schools and is doing a TK Kinder aftercare, and they may be able to add a 5th, which would be Fairwood, by the end of the year if they can get staffing. We also started with Valley Sports this year. Valley Sports is pretty long-standing, Santa Clara County. They do just after-school PE in one way, but there's a character development piece to what they do with their lesson plans. They're currently operating in our 7 traditional KLAS schools, but our MOU is flexible. We'd like to see them doing programming at all 10 before the end of the year. Finally, the KLAS beginning of last year was around what were called thematic units. These were developed as part of a curriculum that we wanted to have something other than just coloring pages or activities. So the thematic units were developed by the KLAS staff. Now, on top of the thematic units, we've added dance, coding, music, and art at 7 of the schools. That's through the company called Forza. And at the end of the year, Forza will be at all 10 and rolling through those different programs they have. So yes, there's a comparison from last year to this. Finally, we wanted to highlight a couple of programs that are new. Kids Care is run with City of Sunnyvale, and this is the beginning of targeting SDC students with mild, moderate to moderate severe needs in the TK and Kinder age range. Right now, that program is at San Miguel. We would love to see it expand, but it's with City of Sunnyvale, and it is difficult to staff. So sustainability means we don't expand beyond what we can keep for that year. We think it would be worse to tell a family we can help with after school and then tell them in November, it's not working out. We can't sustain it. So right now they're in San Miguel and have been in our summer program, and we'd like to see them expand as things go forward. Right at School, as I mentioned before, is open 30 student spots at SMS, Cherry Chase, and Cumberland. These are ELOP qualified, unduplicated students. There is an option this year to increase their capacity with a parent pay option, meaning if you would like to have your child in Right at School and they don't qualify based on the grant criteria, there could be a sliding scale for them to still have a spot in Right at School care. That isn't turned on right now. We're just enrolling the ELOP qualified students, and then we'll see about the demand or the need for parent pay. Catalyst and California Young Worlds are at the schools listed. They are an outside organization that uses our facilities, and that it's a parent pay option for community parents. They are operating under our kind of umbrella, but we don't have an association with them the same way we do as a vendor or an MOU like we do with Right at School or with Kids Care. Yes?
Those are licensed programs.
They are. They're licensed. They're funded differently, so they don't have the same ratio, but their ratios are similar because that's kind of the common sense supervision ratio, but they are licensed fully. The other thing I wanted to touch on was, I mentioned it a couple times, unduplicated students. Our ELOP grant criteria require us to reach out first and prioritize enrollment for foster youth, students receiving homeless services, English learners, and students from low socioeconomic households. So it's very clear, and we're going to talk about it briefly in a moment, how enrollment needs to work for us to prioritize access for those families. And for us as Sunnyvale, not to ignore that we have other very high needs families that also need support, but don't qualify based on those traditional criteria. So here's our areas of growth. The grant that we're talking about, the ELOP, has a concept called intersession days. That means outside the traditional school year, we need to create 30 9-hour days available to families for care. It's funded through the ELOP grant. It is difficult to do. If you do the counting, that means we're looking at Thanksgiving break, winter break, really finding the days when there isn't traditional school, something available for the families that need support. It's wonderful that that's built into the grant language. It gives no guidance on how to do that. We're fortunate to have the partnerships we have, because what we're trying to do now, the first one is called Camp Discovery. It's a City of Sunnyvale camp that operates over Thanksgiving break and winter break. We are using our social workers and community outreach assistants to publicize this camp, and then we will be funding student attendance using this kind of a partnership model with City of Sunnyvale. We want to maximize how many parents can say, oh my gosh, they're not in school this week. I have an option other than just them staying at home. So that's the first pass on how we're going to do these intersession days. We're going to need more. That doesn't solve it, but it's a first step towards what's available and then what can we take internally, whether it's a type of KLAS or something else. Our second area of growth, if I'm very honest, this was the most difficult part of the amount of growth that happened last year, and that was the change to our enrollment process. Since we must target the unduplicated households, we have not done that the same way traditionally. In years past, having been in KLAS didn't guarantee enrollment, but it was prioritized. What we did this year was focus on publicizing KLAS to non-ELOP qualified families as well, but prioritizing placement of students that were qualifying under those 4 categories. So the trick now, how do we do that and place every ELOP unduplicated student that needs care, but also have room for families that need care but may not qualify? How do we prioritize employee families? And then if we say we just need more capacity, how do we do that in a way that doesn't undermine the existing program and do it sustainably? These are big questions. These are not, here's the plan questions. These are pretty collaborative, and there's a lot for us to do in this 1 year. The best thing going, if I'm looking at it right now, is that we have programming at all 10 schools that is flexible, that we can size up and down without breaking our minds. It's doable, and that was by design, it's intentional. Moving forward, how do we create access, and how do we give families that don't have a Sunnyvale School District option good resources and good case management to say, we don't have something right now, but here are the community organizations we refer to. The school social workers are already doing those referrals. Most of them are kind of handheld all the way through. It's not just like, here's a list of resources, but I think that's an area of growth. If we don't have it and are responsible educators, how do we get a kid connected in the community through their family? So thank you for hearing me. Questions and concerns, and I know you have an executive summary as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, for the work putting this together and for answering our questions during the question process. So before we start, we have a speaker card about this item. And the question is from Courtney Jason. Can you please?
Do you want to ask for all public comment first? Yeah. Kind of how many?
Are there any more comments from the public?
About.
You can, you may read. Oh, okay, yes. Okay, card.
Jesus, do you have any online?
I have none online.
Thank you.
Hi, Courtney.
Can I start? No, I don't have a timer.
Sure.
Now I can start?
Yes. Ready? Yes.
Okay. I don't have a speech prepared because I've had too much going on, but I'm Courtney Janderson. I am a parent with 2 kids at San Miguel. I know I've talked to you guys before about after school care, but I wanted to come today to say first, thank you for giving the presentation and making this a focus. It was really interesting. I learned a lot of stuff and I super appreciate the time and effort that went into this and the work that you guys have been doing to expand the care. I think last school year, we talked a little bit about the idea of doing something like an after-school activity catalog, which I guess I would now call, what did you call it, like an aftercare catalog. I've seen a lot of parents in our community who are unclear about what after-school options are available at the schools, and so I envision this as a chance to say, you know, for your school, here are the different programs that are available, here are the grades that are eligible, if it's subsidized or not, either capacity or if there's a long wait list and things going on and stuff like that. And that could include, you know, the ELOC things we talked about, PTA partnerships and so forth. And I hope that that would really help to provide additional clarity to parents, even like myself. I didn't know until tonight that San Miguel has a California Young World option, as example. I also want to reiterate that there are many parents in the community who are willing to pay full price for these things. So my 2nd grader and very soon my kindergartner go to an after-school program that is not through the city or not through the district. They go 3 days a week. The best thing about it is that it picks them up from school. And if they didn't have that, I probably wouldn't be doing it. I have no idea what I would do, but it probably wouldn't be that. And the idea of being able to have on-site programs that are enrichment or frankly, even just running around outside in the playground would be a huge help to parents like us. We're happy to give feedback. And then the one other thing I would say is as you look at the need for this, I would ask, look beyond the existing wait lists that you have for current programs, because there are parents like me who did not even sign up at this school because we knew we wouldn't qualify and we wanted to make sure that other parents got it instead. So I think if you look at the numbers, there's actually more demand than it appears. And again, you know, maybe partnering with PTAs or Sunnyvale Education Foundation, I'm volunteering these guys without asking, to really get a sense of what the need is at the different schools, I think would be really valuable. And that can also include, you know, will you pay full price? Do you need scholarships or not like there? But so those are my thoughts. I'm happy to partner and happy to help. And like I said, thank you very much for looking into this. I think it helps a lot of families.
Thank you. I see we have another card. Here. And it will be Gita Kodakota. Thank you for coming.
My name is Gita Godakota. I'm a parent of a 2nd grader at Ellis. We've been selected to attend KLAS this year. It's a wonderful, wonderful program. I was asking the teacher that my son is not doing so-and-so thing, and I don't know if he's doing it KLAS. The teacher was able to talk to the KLAS person, the teacher there, and they were able to collaborate on what methods were taught in the classroom and how they could bring it into the KLAS. For a kid like mine, it is very helpful to have that consistent academics continued from the classroom. He needs extra intervention and being provided to through KLAS. We are very grateful to the district for, you know, offering it to our kid. So as a needs-based, this is an awesome program, and all that they're doing out there. I saw my son attempting things that are harder for him, like Legos. He has visual perception difficulties. He was attempting them because of the peers that are there. Lot of social skills building. It's an excellent program. And I've watched Mr. Slayton's presentation last year live, as well as I revisited it multiple times to actually absorb all that he said. And I was very encouraged to know that he was planning on expanding it. And I'm very happy to see that it is expanding really well. But my point here, why I'm here today, is to let you know that despite how it looks on the outside for many families that are double income or, you know, people who are not working currently, they're struggling. You know, they're not able to, like, if they have a younger child and they have to put them in a daycare, they can't afford childcare for the second child. You know, there are so many other cases where parents are not working because it's simply not affordable. So I wish there's a way for us to do a survey for the families use through teachers or to administrators, outreach assistants. It may not be always visible, but when the teacher talks to the family, then they will know that, oh, there is a need here, and it would really help a lot of families. So I do wish the district can take that into consideration. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. So, suppose no more online either? Well, then there is nothing to approve, so we can start with our question as it is a study session. And then we do your work.
I'll start. Thank you so much for this presentation. I
Sure.
appreciate it. I always appreciate how much, how thorough these presentations. Thank you. I always appreciate how thorough these things are, and I want to thank staff for their hard work here. I do have requests for the future. I know that this is outside of the scope of this particular item of ELOP, but I would really like to see a baseline existing data of what schools do now, not necessarily for ELOP, but general after-school care. I know that there are schools who have usually parent-driven opportunities that are gathered by parents, and then vendors come on, and I want to know more about that, because in my personal experience, having, a kid in the district, that is a little bit uneven. And at the schools where it doesn't exist, I'm not entirely sure it's on their radar. Like, if you don't have a parent looking for this, how would you know to look out? I don't know what that looks like communication wise, like how can you tell this parent or the school that you need to find this parent or something, but I would like just to see that baseline. Okay.
You mean like after school programs that
Yes.
people can pay to sign up for like a month or two at a time?
Yes, exactly, like chess.
After school classes.
Okay.
Right, just having like a base or something like that. I also wanted to ask about KLAS for special ed families especially. You mentioned that at San Miguel there is, could you say what it is called?
That's the Kids Care program.
Kids Care, okay. So I am curious, I'm under the impression San Miguel has a mild mod TK, and I know Bishop has moderate severe, so does that mean that those kids don't have TKK for them right now?
For after-school care?
Yeah,
That is correct.
So are they able to participate in KLAS?
KLAS right now at Bishop is run by the city of Sunnyvale.
Okay.
So they do have some capacity to take students that have exceptional needs, but they do not have special ed staffing. So it seems to be, and this is fresh investigation here. If you're able to manage in the program with accommodation, it seems like that's something we can work towards. Working to modification of the program is probably outside the scope. That is a scope that we haven't defined yet. That means, is every student with every type of special education need able to be served in the KLAS program or TKK program? Right now, that answer is it's not built that way right now. So it's an area we have to grow to and reasonably decide what types of modifications would be possible in after-school care without a credentialed teacher.
Could you remind me what that means for us as recipients of the ELOP grant who are receiving this federal money and who have to serve these kids?
Yes, special education service is not an unduplicated status. If a special education student is also a student from a low socioeconomic household, then we have a gray area to decide this student has a right to this programming. Is this programming able to meet FAPE? Is it a free, appropriate public education? The key word there is appropriate. Not every program is appropriate for every level of student. So that's what we have to decide is this program able to be adapted to this student's needs if they're an ELOP qualified student? That being said, even a non-ELOP qualified student with an IEP, if there was capacity in the program and they applied, we'd want to look at this the same way. Is there a way to get them in the program and have it be appropriate for them? So yes, the answer is kind of a strange one, but there is not a clear program that's already designed, and it's something that other school districts are looking at too. How do you meet IEP needs with ELOP funding and still have the program exist?
Great, thank you.
Sure.
And then I had another question about the sliding scale program. What could you remind me was that Kids Care? That wasn't Kids Care.
So thank you. That was right at school.
Right at school.
They have, and Dr. Dean encouraged us to start looking at sliding scale models. They have a sliding scale model, meaning we are vendors with them, or they're a vendor of ours. They have 30 spots that ELOP funding is paying with their work with us. They have the ability to open extra spots with their staffing.
Like ability mean we have more staff, like that company has more staffing.
Correct, and that company is paid directly by the parent. Even though we have a vendor for 30 spots, they have a secondary presence on the campus to offer extra spots. How they slide the scale and what that looks like, that's kind of to be determined. We haven't worked with them yet doing that. Is there a way for the district to fund part of that? How do they do it in other places? All of that, we're just enrolling the traditional 30 spots right now, and we'll see as the year goes. Right now, there isn't demand for parent pay right at school at Sunnyvale Middle, Cumberland, or Cherry Chase. We also haven't done a ton of publicity that it could be possible, to be fair.
I'm under the impression that California Young World has a similar funding mechanism. It's also need-based, right? So is this separate?
This would be separate from how California Young Worlds is funded. I don't know their fee structure.
So their fee structure is set by the state and by income verification.
Can you speak into the?
I'm sorry, for licensed care programs that have subsidies, it's set by the state. And in the county, we were part of a grant funding that actually raised the minimum level of salaries to reflect more of what the prevailing need is in our county. So they're required to meet those specific specifications, and we don't have locus of control over that, but that model could be something that we could look at to see what would be reasonable place to start. But what private vendors can do is very different because they're not under a license, they're not under this particular licensing situation. And Catalyst has had some programs that also have subsidies with them. It's my understanding that the program at Cumberland, it does not have subsidized spots currently. And the other issue is that subsidies go with a licensed program. You cannot swap them out currently. So, and they're very difficult to get as well. I don't know of school districts that have made direct application for them. It's usually through a licensed care provider who has access to those.
Thank you, Nancy. I do think that California Young World has that. I don't know if it's a sliding scale model, but a needs-based model. And I believe that when we have been hearing from community members in the past, particularly at San Miguel, that was kind of what they were looking for, and I think it's something that would be worth vocalizing in the future. And then I also wanted to say that I have heard personally some complaints from special ed parents about their child's needs not being met through our vendors, and especially for Right at School, which is being paid for by ELOP. I am curious if we have language in our contract with Right at School to require their employees to have training for these types of children.
We don't have a carve out where we've defined it differently than Right at School currently defines their training model, and their training model includes students with special needs. To what extent and whether every student's IEP needs, were they to require modification, are met by Right at School staff, I couldn't speak to that because they are not able to enroll all students regardless of special ed accommodation.
All right, I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Once they are into the program, they are accepted into the program, they're supposed to cover for these kids.
Correct.
So if you have complaints about a kid who was accepted but doesn't have the right needs being met, then or support, then that would be an issue.
It would. There are still conduct rules, there's still standards of behavior even within ELOP funded programming. So I couldn't speak to the situation, but if a student is enrolled and accepted into the program, whether it's KLAS or Right at School, is taking on that student and their needs within the bounds of what they're built to be able to accommodate after school.
And I just want to bring us back to the clarification that Mr. Staten talked about with regards to severity of disability. And so when it gets to a level that's beyond the expertise and the ability of the program, those are the programmings that we're looking at. So I think it's falling in that bucket, but nonetheless, those are areas that we're looking at because our current structure with vendors, our current programming is not equipped to really provide a faith environment for those particular students.
It's my impression, speaking with families, that the KLAS program that we have with our paras is better equipped or has been in the past better equipped than some of our vendors. And I would like to see that standard that we set met by our vendors.
So I have a question. So we have about 700 students being served now. How many students would qualify for ALOP funding?
Yes, so
a lot more,
a
right?
lot more. All English learners would qualify, which is a huge percentage of our district.
Right.
All ELOP qualified families received communication about the programs at each of their school sites. So we communicated with enrolled ELOP qualified students to roll forward their enrollment to this year. So that was the first tier. Second tier was communicating to every unduplicated student at every school site. These are the programs available. Here's your contact person if you have questions. We enrolled all of the ELOP qualified kids that came out of that poll. And then we opened it to students that are not unduplicated. It's a double negative, but that's what it is. So we opened to everyone else after those groups were hit.
Okay.
There are a lot of students that qualify and are not applying or expressing interest.
Okay.
Can I do it before I do a quick interjection related to that? I'm just curious what the communication was.
Right.
Like,
So-
was it just like a one-off, or I'm assuming there was multiple?
We did a few. We felt and this is it could come out as a little pejorative, but we want to kind of identify hurdles in place for families that are dealing with special needs. For a McKinney-Vento family, we don't send them an email. We did physical mailings, we did an email, we did a follow-up email, and then we also did a call out to all the numbers we had. These were in Spanish and English across the board, and then identified families that we knew, hey, we haven't heard from you. The school outreach assistants did single calls to those families. We didn't single call all ELOP families with a person-to-person call.
Yeah, for a second I was like, I don't think, so you called the ones who were higher need.
Correct, the ones that we either knew were enrolled, like currently, and had not submitted enrollment for the following year, or families that had just come up as possibly needing aftercare. Sometimes there's students, and the principal knows, there's students in the main office after school every day for 90 minutes, 2 hours. Those are families we contact if we know we can get them a spot to make sure that they know how to apply.
Okay, but then the mailer and the email, those went to everybody.
Correct.
who's- Just the calls.
Exactly, yes.
So my other so I sent you you probably, maybe you read it or not, I don't know. But I just sent you something today because we had a meeting with SCCSB in the Bill Wilson Center. And they told us they have 700 families on the waiting list for emergency shelters. And so whenever they open the doors to that Sunnyvale shelter, they're gonna put 24 families in there. We don't know the age of the kids, we don't know how many, could just all be babies, we don't even know. But are we gonna be having some placeholders at our school for our new students who might be unhoused?
Yeah, so thank you, great question, I appreciate it. We had KLAS coordinators who, if there's an unsung hero in this equation, the KLAS coordinators are mini principals from 2:30 to 6 o'clock PM. And they have been doing this work with I should have brought people. Tasha said bring people. They wouldn't come because they're at KLAS. Anyway, what we did was, and this was by recommendation of Lindsay Simon, who's our lead, our head KLAS lead, we retained 10% of the spots at every school vacant for enrolling families that are ELOP qualified. Now, this is tricky and we have to balance this because that means we increased the number of people on the wait list that aren't qualified for ELOP services, which is antithetical to what we're trying to do. So 10% sounds like a lot. It's not a ton of spots. It's between 5 and 8 spots at every school. We're going to hold them as far into the first trimester as we can. Jeremy worked with me to identify when enrollments usually come in. By then, we're pretty settled and we should have capacity to meet the needs of families. Does that mean we're going to get everybody? It really depends. Some KLAS programs are completely full with 81 kids and a wait list. Some have a little more flexibility. There are some parents who, once the child's in there, they're not gonna stay the whole year. The parent says, I wanna get him every day at 3 o'clock. And we say, this may not be the program, even if they're an ELOP qualified student. We're looking at students who need to be there for hours. So early pickup is kind of a sign to make sure it's a good fit. The short answer is we built in a procedure for that. We don't know yet if it's enough.
So I have one comment and one question. So my comment is, I really wanna see how much these programs cost, the ones that we have for the families. Like, I think the last time we got together, we said, how much does it cost for these things, right? For Catalyst or California Young World. I would love to just see what their model is, like if it's available, like whatever they send out to families, I would love to see what that is. And then my question my thought for the board is, there's some school districts, like I talked to a trustee from Morgan Hill, and he was telling us, this was at CLSBA, he was telling us that that at Morgan Hill, they actually met with community members and they actually put the after school program like in the apartment building. Like they sent people to where the kids were, right? And they open up classrooms and they have
What do you mean they have to open up classrooms in an apartment?
No, so they open up classrooms on campuses, like, so you know how we are running out of space because we're not going into classrooms? And I asked their superintendent, and she said, we open up the classrooms for a parent, so we have enough after-school programs for the kids who need it. And so I know that it would be a huge change, but I think we ought to think about it as a board. It will be a big inconvenience for our staff. And I know, got negotiations coming up. I know there's a lot of things going on. And maybe it doesn't have to be at our school site, but on the other hand, if there just really is that kind of a need, if there's a sliding scale expansion available, I think every time I've talked to principals or teachers over the years, they say, if we could just get an extended day for that kid, if I could just work with them for 20 more minutes, we could keep them here, we could get them engaged with school. It's not just about after school care convenience for the parents, it's like what it can do for the kids. And we have so many kids who are struggling with the state test scores and our own measures. So I don't know, I think we ought to really consider extended, seeing different ways. Maybe this is an opportunity for extended time on campus for the kids, not just as a daycare, but as a learning tool.
And they do have, I don't know if you mentioned it, that they even started programs in big apartment buildings where there is a bigger need, where they have tons of kids, they go on.
Right, that is a model that some housing projects do, that they actually have providers as a part of their program.
It's through the school district.
Through the school district.
Yeah.
The school district
Right.
goes there and.
Right, and some have providers that are part of the housing support, and some also invite school districts to participate in that. But
But it is a collaboration with the housing authority or that infrastructure, so you have to have both in order for that to work, just want to clarify.
right, it's not as simple as it.
No, I know,
And I know that, well, as I see, as you say over here, that it is about, right now, 250K per month. That's all right now? I mean, in one of the questions, what
of the
they
How much we're spending on that.
how much are we spending on that? You say that it's 3.3 million and it's about 250 per month for 700 kids. That would be about $357 or $360.
I believe that's our ELOP disbursement per unduplicated student per year. I don't know how much of that is allocated right now to existing programming and MOUs. I'd have to work with the finance team to get that more detailed.
And that is with the space we have right now without intruding into the teacher's classroom.
Correct. The limitation right now isn't facilities. That was the truth last year. Right now, we're large enough now that if we start going bigger, we do have to do that restructure where there's a detached supervising adult, both of the employees and the over 100 kids. Anything over 100 students means 5 employees managing 20 students each, and 1 that needs to be pretty detached to manage logistics. That's not our model right now. And that would be, and doubling the hiring. So we'd have to hire their replacement para to take the 20, and then additional supervision for if we're increasing capacity.
So
Did I say that
Without
wrong?
increasing the space.
That would also require us to increase space. Space right now, and you're true, you, of course, in classrooms is where, why don't we use classrooms? The limitation right now is the change in the staffing model, that we would be staffing this with an independent adult. Their 20 kids would need to be covered by an additional staff person. And then if we're looking to increase numbers, hiring another staff
Tell me
person.
I'm not quite
Sure,
following,
so if
sorry.
we run a KLAS program, I have 20 kids under my care and I'm in charge of the
Like the current-
KLAS. Right, another way it's set up, I've got my 20
But then if there's like 60.
and 3 other people have 20, and I'm
Okay.
running the program. So I'm running check-in and check-out, I'm running attendance, crises, medical
For
stuff.
all 60.
For all
Plus
60.
you're watching your 20.
Correct.
So then
If we go up to
fill in would be
100,
kicked
I
off.
cannot have 20 that are under my supervision and then be managing 80 other students and the 4 people in charge of
You become just
them.
the lead over everything.
Correct. Now, that'd be a change. Right now, we don't have a program
Yeah.
where we're doing that. So we can't just hire 1 more para at each program and increase our numbers. We're at the limit of what we can do with our current model of having the person in charge also in charge of 20 kids.
So it would be like adding 2, like if
Exactly.
you went to like 120,
Exactly.
you're adding the extra para plus a lead.
Correct.
because- Yeah.
And then navigating the facilities. Then we get to the facilities question, which isn't an easy one, but right now, the staffing change question is the one that I
Is
think
the
would be more
trickier
urgent.
So the next step, the next step should be, how much we can add without changing the structure of the space.
Correct.
Like then the next one will be, instead of 1 person, there will be a second person, because there will be a supervisor plus
Correct. Yes.
the extra person, and they will still be on a multi-use classroom.
Yes.
So
If we did something like that, like that would still the idea of increasing that just for the unduplicated students, right?
That would be for all students.
For all students.
Yeah.
So if you had some students paying on a sliding scale, how much income would that really generate? Would that generate enough to cover it for the expansion?
It's a good question. What we haven't explored is a mixed model, like you're saying, where there's KLAS. Some of the students are going there for free. Some of the students are paying a fee to go there. Technically, all students are paying $180 a year. It's $1 a day, but we're talking about coming up with a different funding model. We don't have a blended program. If we did, would that pay for the increase in staffing we're talking about? Possible. The fact that these are not full-time jobs, these are 4 to 6 hour positions, makes the hiring for them very difficult, because again, they're from 2:30 to 6. A late pickup will take you to 6:30. It is usually a person who works for us part-time and then becomes a KLAS paraprofessional. So that's also another limitation to how we can't just expand.
Okay, I would like to have a question because I've been interrupted several times and I have been respectfully waiting to have my own initiative on the question.
Sure, you have quite a few, but sure, go ahead.
So I wanted to invite a conversation about the program that is being initiated at the County Office of Education for Workforce. They are trying to identify opportunities and provide training so that we can get more qualified people in at various different levels into childcare. The challenge is that 40% of the childcare sites in our county went away with COVID and are not coming back. So there's a statistical imbalance that's already there, and that childcare personnel have not come back either. They've made different choices and decisions. So while I appreciate wanting to ramp up, it's going to take us longer than what we want if we're going to be trying to get the quality of personnel who can handle the complexity of needs of individual students and make it a supportive environment for them. Additionally, the Inclusion Collaborative has been helpful in trying to provide some supports and training for staffing as well. And that's an opportunity for us to connect with them as well.
We're in the Inclusion Collaborative, right? Like, aren't we already a part of that? We participate
We
in,
participate.
yeah, and, yeah, okay.
But
So,
this is
but I think that last time we were here, we heard from Mike,
I think Nancy wasn't finished.
Oh, I thought, okay, wow, go ahead.
I started out with the initial
Okay,
conversation, but I'm concerned about quality of care rather than quantity of care. Because if we expand out just because we have space and there's a need, and we're not providing the level of quality of care, then we're really doing something that's not sustainable and it's not providing a service. Because we're not meeting the needs of families. And that's.
I don't think any of us want garbage care. I don't think any of us want poor quality
No,
care.
but I think it's a good reminder, right? If you just jump in really fast.
Yeah, and then
that's
that's
what
when he started saying about the sustainability and the quality and the standards that we have. That's how you started, just comment something in the middle and then about it.
Right, I appreciate that, but I want to reiterate that because some of the programs that we're talking about are going to have specialized needs, and it's going to take time to scale up to find personnel and training to meet those specific needs. So the reality is that we may not be able to, we see a need, but we may not be able to meet those needs of every child in the short term. It's going to take longer. The other issue is funding. Sliding scales are really nice, but somehow the gap needs to be made up for these private providers, and that the model of sliding scale fees may not meet the needs of the salaries that are required to hire competent people. So there's also that kind of capacity issue. I'm not saying that we can't do it, but I'm trying to be realistic in the exciting part of ramping up. It may take longer than what we want to get the type of quality of program. I'd also like to remind people that the models for care of our two on-site childcare providers are year-round. And so their capacity to add more people is based on a model that requires not part-time care, but full-time care. So their capacity or drop-in or other may be different. I like that you're partnering with the city to try and utilize the existing licensed home daycares, because I think that's where the biggest opportunity lies. So to your model of going to where the kids are in the community can come to where the homes are that are providing care. So it's a slightly different model, but it honors the fact that we're looking for care within a community setting concept. And I think
Well,
that's
I was actually asking the board if the board, like if we as a board were interested in expanding, childcare opportunities, and not terrible childcare opportunities and not bad ones. And it's really tough when people say, it's so great to have the same paraeducator who works with my kid in the regular classroom, work with my kid in KLAS. I mean, I don't think you can top that model. So I understand how that would be like very difficult to compete with. But, if the issue is in some ways, if there are other qualified providers out there who could come onto our, we do have a lot of empty classrooms after school. If that's something the board would want to, ask the district to investigate or pursue, because right now, I mean, it's almost like saying, well, like how much do you want to offer? Because we don't wanna offer after school stuff to people when we don't have it for them. You can't say like, you're entitled to this program that we can't provide for you or we don't have for you. So why would you ask them to like sign up for something that you don't have? But if we were truly trying to like expand the needs to like cast a broader net and meet the needs of more people, we would just, and I don't know if that's at our school sites or if that is somewhere in the community or, you know, through the city. But I'm just wondering if the board has an interest, so.
So like how big is the waiting list right now? Because at the beginning of the year, I thought we heard about only 10 people who
Yeah, there were-
signed last year.
There are very few. I don't know the waiting lists at all schools. The largest waiting list at the beginning of school was 12. And that was, I believe, at San Miguel. And I think 8 of them have been placed, but more have since signed up. So there are no currently ELOP qualified students on the waiting list. I don't know where the waiting lists are currently.
Okay, and then before we work with the contracts and then asking the teachers if they allow us to use their classrooms, with the space that we have this year, then we need, instead of adding one more, we will need to add more, but then will we have the space in these multi-rooms and space?
It would really depend school by school. Some schools are completely full between KLAS, Catalyst if it's there, TK Kinder if that's there. We have filled the majority of usable spaces. Saying we're gonna use a classroom is an option, but then you usually set up a rotation schedule. You do a 3-week stay in one classroom, so every teacher surrenders their classroom in a rotation. More than that, we don't currently have, I think, the call from the community to increase by that much. We would want to go site by site instead of generating like an across the board increase at all schools.
And then there is the issue that we are in contract with some private people, so we'll have to modify our contracts if we're gonna offer competing on their market price if we're gonna do this program.
No, so none of the MOUs disallow us to open concurrent programming.
Okay, so that we will have to stop having the consultants.
No, so I think I understand. So at Right at School is running a program at Cumberland for 30 students. If Sunnyvale School District decided to open a KLAS program at Cumberland, Right at School would keep working with its 30. We would take on whatever we decided to and thought we could sustain. Moving forward, we obviously wouldn't stay with Right at School if we could do this all internally.
Okay, and do you have another? Okay.
I have.
Sure.
Sorry, I keep going around, but everyone get a chance to talk. I keep coming up with more questions as this
Sure.
discussion goes on.
That's the point.
I'm sorry.
That's what you're
Oh,
supposed to
good.
do.
Do we,
Okay,
if you're doing something else, do we wanna kind of answer Bridget's question and chat about that for minutes, or are you jumping something?
I'm just curious, like where
Yeah.
people stand on it.
I think up to a point, we would like to offer as much as we can and then be prepared for the next negotiations if we wanna ask the teachers for this option as a part of next year negotiation.
Based on need.
Based on need, but if we are only needing 10 kids or so in each place, maybe with just the same facilities, I mean, maybe we don't need to renegotiate contracts with teachers for this.
I think that if I'm honest, as a principal, my biggest concern was working and burning a relational equity on something that we couldn't actually deliver. Now, there's a time to push teachers and say, hey, we're gonna need your classroom, we got 10 kids. What I would hate to do would be to initiate that process, have the 10 kids, and not be able to hire the 4-hour paraprofessional. That's the staffing limitation of a part-time job, when this is what we're able to do right now, is one we'd wanna make really sure we have these positions staffed, so it wasn't capacity, facilities, and no staff. And that would be, those are the 3 things: staffing, physical capacity, and then interested kids.
And then, as I see by the numbers, so we have about 4 or 5 paraeducators in the afternoons come in and stay with us. Some of them are the same paraeducators we use for regular classes during the day, not everybody.
Correct.
And which are normally qualified by us to be in the mornings there, so
Yes.
hopefully they are quality. So how many paraeducators do we normally have during the morning
I don't know, it really depends on the school and the type of paraeducator. There's different types and different job classifications, either a special education paraeducator, bilingual paras. Jeremy's helping, I don't know the third one.
Paras, we have our early childhood paras, behavior technicians.
So the other trick that we found is we've been really good at this, and it was a lot of work, but HR helped us pair the paraprofessional with their current on-site KLAS. So there's a paraprofessional at Ellis and they're a KLAS paraprofessional after school. That is not always possible. So there are people traveling in district to other after-school KLAS programs, and that was unavoidable. We would see that more if we do decide to expand, which isn't ideal, but we'd be grateful for people. We would not move their para job in the morning because they're already built with the faculty and staff and where they are. But that's what we're seeing is the limitation of on-site. I can stay at Ellis and I can be another 4 hours. I think we've reached the limit of how many of those we can actually do.
Okay, so then we will need to hire other people most of the cases?
I think I don't know. I don't know how many paras that are currently part-time would be interested in going to a KLAS position, either on-site or off. But that would be our first pass. And then hiring them as an external position, I think would be the next one. How about for affirmation and got it? So that would be the second phase.
So last year there was a lot of talk about adding some intervention programs for using it as extended education as in the name, we use as name for the program, and adding some intervention in math or language when needed. How is that, how has been working and what are the results of that?
Right. So the first model we wanted to try was enhancing the para's ability to do curriculum delivery or homework center. Like, hey, we'll get your math homework done. Too big of a leap. They're doing student management, having them dive in with 20 kids on math assignments ranging from 3rd grade to 5th grade was a non-starter. What we're thinking now, and there's one school looking at it, I think it's Cherry Chase, is what credentialed teachers are interested in 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, after school position, tutoring students that are in the ELOP program, whether they're qualified or not. It would be a pull-out model. We have all the attendance stuff set up where a teacher could go and get 10 3rd graders, 10 4th graders, and do academic intervention. Opening that to all 7 KLAS schools, it's too soon to do it, but that would be the model, would be credentialed tutoring that was kind of not at teacher discretion, like they worked one Monday and then didn't do anything for 3 weeks, but it would be a bonus for a teacher to say, I can do a part-time additional piece with the district on these days. The fact that they're pulling kids out of an ELOP program, I don't say this wrong, means they could be funded, those hours could be funded out of the LOP, which would be fantastic.
And then they will be normally paid by contract, like, a higher salary because it's overtime.
There's actually EWA hours that are designated around direct student supervision, and I think there's like an hour for that versus curriculum preparation or whatever else it would be. They'd be paid the direct student interaction EWA.
So it's
Yes, I
past 7, so want to be aware of that. I think Eileen still had a question.
I have 3.
3 questions.
And also a question for Bridget. So when you talked about going to the apartment buildings, I'm not sure.
I'm saying that what they
did in Morgan Hill, right? So what they did in Morgan Hill, you said they went to the big apartment buildings. I'm not sure we have something like that. I was looking at the Penn site and I counted, I think there were 5 housing, low-income housing sorts of apartments that are potentially there. I don't know how many students are there, but what do you see?
I was just illustrating that as a point where they were saying, we will do whatever it takes to support the families and the students, actually.
Okay.
Like, they're just gonna give that extended time to students wherever they are, regardless of income level. They're gonna do whatever they can to get as many kids in, little brains staying activated at school or in this other program at their home. They're gonna do whatever they can, and it'll help the parents and it'll help the kids. So it's a very different thing than what we're doing right now. So
I mean, I think I do think it's an interesting idea. I would like to explore the concept. I would like to have that conversation with Mid-Penn if we can do that. I also wanted to ask you brought up the Bill Wilson Center, and that's the one that's specifically located off of Matilda and 237? Or is that a different under children?
Yeah,
So-
they took over home first.
They just took over their shelter, but.
And so that has specific feeder schools, so do those specific feeder schools have the room for those kids in ELA?
We don't have, that specific feeder school doesn't have a different number than every school. We kept 10% at every single school. The neighborhood school isn't necessarily the destination school. It depends on the kid's program strand,
Okay.
if there's a special education situation. So we didn't try to cluster spots we reserved. For this first year, we just kept them everywhere and we'll see what happens.
And they normally come for whenever in the district. So
Right.
because the idea is that you don't take this kid out of the school where
Okay.
he has been living because
Okay, so that's
they
not,
are in a
that's not
temporary
necessary.
sort of situation, yeah.
All right, I would also want to just putting this out there, I would really like to see us in collaboration with the city of Sunnyvale or the YMCA or whoever we do this with, have robust after-school programming for middle schoolers at Columbia Neighborhood Center. I think that would be really great. I don't have a particular attachment to how academic it is versus how enriching it is, but I think that would be really great for the community, the kids, the neighborhood, and I would love to see that. And then my last thing is that last fall, we talked about having some of our site visits during after-school hours, and then I had a baby, so we didn't do that, but I would like to revisit doing that again.
Sure.
Yeah, I see that we do have, by the way, Columbia Middle School, but we don't have SMS.
Columbia Middle has a KLAS program. SMS has right at school.
It's not Pokemon, it's some other. Anyway, Michelle and Nancy, do you have any thoughts about the idea of, I mean, I guess Nancy, you shared that you didn't wanna go too fast. Any thoughts about?
So I guess what I'm saying is that I would tag on to Eileen, what we had before a number of years ago was actually convening daycare providers, the city, everybody, and having a group that would have discussions about this so that we were brainstorming together and seeing what their capacity is and looking at opportunities to grow childcare in the community as a whole, understanding that every family has unique needs and that even the programs that we offer may not be meeting what the real need is. I think I forwarded to you, there's the latest childcare study that talks about where the gaps are in need in the entire county, but also in our particular area. Our area actually dropped for priorities to level 2 instead of level 1, the highest need this particular year. And that's only because of salaries. It's not because the need didn't go away. It's just the salary, once again, the subsidized salary caps are still too high for families.
So, yeah, I'm trying to get it. So you mean that instead of us discussing if the district want to do this, you want to go to every side discussing exactly what their needs are for each of the family and then making a service about it?
Or to have a joint conversation with the city and the county,
Like
and
having
school
a-
districts.
Well, but the city already said a few times that if we know the capacity and the price, and that's what we were asking, they will be able to collaborate if they know, like, if we tell them for 100 kids, X amount of money, they will think if they may have the budget. I mean, but they say like, they want us to know, quantify number and kids, like, that's what we were asking for the possibilities, like, if we, without using the classroom, how many kids do we have, or how much will it cost? So we can say to the city, hey, per kid, this amount of money, and we need, I don't know, 100, 50, 20, whatever the number is.
So
Next
knowing the capacity is important. I think we also need to understand what everybody else's capacity is too, as far as can they, and that's why gathering everybody and having a large group convening of people who are players in the game can let us know what is reasonable as far as finance, facilities, and staffing. And that's the fastest way, instead of going to each individual person, is to gather everybody together and have a conversation.
Well, so that
Stakeholders.
what I think I understood is like that, like if we can have like without going into the classroom, that would be the first level, like what is our capacity per site and per need, looking at the waiting list of people who can pay something. And then we may be able to ask our partners, you know, and give them a number without us having to renegotiate. And if there is still 200 kids coming, like we really need this, but we cannot pay the $3,000, what can you give us? Then we can try to do something else.
So,
that
you know,
is an
at
extra
at
that
the
would
risk
be-
of trying to problem solve it here.
Yeah.
I think we have the answer to your question, Bridget, I think from the
Yes.
board and from staff is yes. We want to try to do what we can to reasonably, with awareness that there's limitations of time and capacity, do what we can to expand childcare in Sunnyvale. I'm aware that every single, nationally, childcare is a challenge. Throughout the state, it's a challenge. Sunnyvale's no different. Let's try to be better. There's limitations to what we can do, but yeah, let's try some different things. Let's listen to different, like Nancy's idea. It doesn't hurt to listen to others. Some providers have come to meet with me and they said, if you just give me a dedicated space, I could probably get funders. Like, we can't provide you a dedicated space, but maybe the city can, right? So that's where getting people together. So I think the answer to your question is yes. Let's try to. It'll be incremental. It's not going to happen next month. You know, we're just implementing this year. But with time, we've already grown the program and we can continue to try.
And that would be the program from our side, because if the city wants to do it in their facilities, they just need to pick up the kids and pay their own buses. But that would be their thing and not our problem, other than provide the kids. They can go and pay and do whatever, but if, from our side, if we wanna do it in our place with our, you know,
Yeah, these are all things we
parenting
can try to-
responsibilities,
Again, we don't need to try to problem solve it here.
that would be it.
So I do like Nancy's idea of like a childcare summit, of getting a bunch of stakeholders in the room. I know that Cupertino does their like 2x2x2 with the elementary and the city and the high school board, and
That
like
might be a
maybe
good
not.
topic.
It would be an interesting topic, and maybe even like maybe having two of us go like as a subcommittee, like having an assigned portion of the board be part of this conversation. I would love to see that matched by the city and the Mid-Penn Housing Authority potentially, and other stakeholders. I think I would love to have a convening of that sort of thing to talk about this. Because we've been hearing from the community that this is a problem. And I feel as a parent that it is actually worse here than in other places.
And yeah, as we did say that from when it started a few months ago, and I think all the other boards say that they wanted to meet with us referring to this, even the Patrick Board, the ANSA, high school, the city keep telling us, give us a price and we'll match it, and you know, we just need to.
That's not city staff that's saying that.
No, but they're bosses.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify the distinction between childcare and after-school program.
Sure.
We're in the after-school programming lane, and we're trying to support and be a resource to daycare needs and childcare needs, but that is not our primary focus as a school district and responsibility. But we try to do that because we are trying to be engaging and supporting our families. So I just want to express the distinction between those two things because some of our latter conversation was leading into the childcare, daycare provider conversation, which are two different conversations. So I just wanted to
And
make
that
that
is right,
distinction.
and that's why we want the quality, like, I mean, if the city or somebody else want to run a program, they can pick up the kids and take care of that, but we are in Locus Parentis when they are in our program.
So how much
So we
longer do you
want-
want to discuss this? Because we're about 7:15.
I say, I haven't really had a chance to talk, I'd love,
So
Tasha
maybe,
actually said most of what I was gonna say, so mine will be short, because that was like mostly my same thing.
is there anyone after that or?
First off, I just want to say thank you for all of this, and I'm really excited about for quite a few years, and probably before I even came on, right? improving the quality of the after school, like extended learning, right? It was kind of, the model was really more of a daycare space, which is helpful, like, as we talk about, like, we need a lot of that, but as Tasha pointed out, our space is extended learning and helping students, right, like, master the core content areas. Anyways, I'm really excited that we are moving in that direction, and I think kind of that note, I mean, I think Tasha already said it, but I think it's just helpful to remember there's those two spaces. There's the childcare space that is not directly our space, right? So like I think not to say it's not important and like we need to take care of our families, right? So they can get education. So it's a space we want to be involved in, but that's separate than extended learning. And I just would kind of, I think, like my preference is, and everyone have preference is spending the majority of our time in first continue to improve the quality of our extended learning, like these things that you were talking about, like we're gonna try a few places, like my preference would be to, I think the biggest bang for buck would be focusing on that, getting that improved, getting that to all the schools, and hopefully we can kind of overlap with increasing the numbers of kids in that higher quality extended learning. So that's why.
Thank you.
Well, and it's 7:50, we have a very light agenda today for a change, so do we want to spend any more, like 5-10 minutes on the proposal one? Okay, I think I'm done. I wanted to say we're just going back in circles. Thank you very much for all the presentation and your patience in this matter. And we normally have a 5-minute break that tends to turn into 10 before we move to the next item. So we're gonna do that before we go to item 10, and it is right now 7:15.
Before we move to item 4, not item 10.
Yes, sorry, study session 3 before we move to the next item, and it's 7:16. So we'll try to be here at 7:25 before the next item. Thank you.
Yeah, in fact, several made comments.
Yes.
And draft.
What's the,
Good, yeah, good, and I won't need to say it. Thank you.
Hello. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, how's your first one? Oh, good.
so like, is everything you said?
It's like, our kids can teach me something. You guys are in some.
Okay.
Thank
you. I just keep thinking of your son being so sad about this.
About which one? Oh, that's okay, he was upset the other day.
I'm not getting anything I want
When I get home.
Oh, Jesus, perfect timing.
Okay, so it's 7:27, and with that, we're gonna start with the consent. And that would be item 4. Thank you. And item 4 is comments from the board and superintendent. We're gonna start to the left.
So it's fun coming back to school. A lot of things are kicking off, and so I'm sure it's been busy for everybody, but I wanted to thank the schools that I went to for their back to school nights. They were really well attended, and I appreciated the intentionality of providing options for Spanish speaking families that they could communicate and hear about what is happening in the language that they felt most comfortable. And that was exciting. I've done a lot with the LAC starting off. Strong Start. I've attended I'm gonna be attending those meetings on a more intentional basis. And I'm really excited about activities that our parcel tax measure that we're inviting the community to participate in next week. Unfortunately, I'm going to be out of town on family business, and I do make the promise that I'll be here when we're walking and talking to people on the ground.
Just want to share couple quick things. One, my timing was thrown off because I was just out of town. I think it was last week. I had a video chat with Senator Wahab just to we hadn't really connected one-on-one, so we just had a great conversation about education and building that, and hopefully kind of making some partnerships on some things. And then also I told her later before the holidays, inviting her to come to one of our schools or some event or something. So I had that, and then just two personal things I want to share real fast that were fun for me. So on Friday night, I think most of you know, my oldest is a senior who plays football. He had a concussion, so it was his first game back from that. And then my daughter's a cheerleader, so he was on the field playing, she was on the field cheering, and then my youngest, I was talking to someone else right before the game, and then all of a sudden I hear someone yelling, and then he runs down the stairs. So they needed a ball boy, so he went and was the ball boy. Wow. And for his birthday, we've gotten him a Puka Nacua shirt. That's a player from BYU who's now, he was one of the best wide receiver rookies last year. Anyway, so he was wearing his jersey, so it's fun to see, and people were calling him Puka. So I had all three of my kids on the football field Friday night. It was just one of those fun, fills your heart as a mom moments. It was really fun. And then on that connection, I think most of you guys know, but I'm wearing a shirt that says I love my teenager. I just got back from a mom retreat. It's a mother parenting thing I've been working on for the last year, but there was this retreat. And so it was wonderful. I also got to see some good friends in Colorado who moved there. So I just had a really fabulous week, but essentially that reminder, right? And we don't have a lot of teenagers in our district, but they start becoming teenagers in our district, and then we send them off to the high school. And the idea of having a positive attitude about them, right? Sometimes they are very challenging and hard, but it's because that's their job right? They're going through this construction and stuff's going on in their brain, and they're learning who they are, and we as adults, right, need to be safe spaces for them to trust us. Anyway, so just kind of wanted to share what's been going on in my personal world recently.
I want to say that sometimes my 9-year-old is a teenager, but I want to say I went to some back to school nights. It was great. I always love visiting the preschool at Lakewood because it's the SBC preschool, and their kids are so cute. I love this preschool. It's so cute. And this time I did it with my baby, so it was extra cute because it was oh baby, and then he was trying to grab their faces, So I had fun. I went to that, and Fairwood, let's see, Cherry Chase and Columbia. It was great meeting and talking to families. I really love that meeting and talking to families thing. I kind of miss that part of strategic planning when we had those big convenings where we get all those people. And I'm curious, I know we do the equity summit, but I would almost like to see us continue to do that, even though we don't have a strategic planning anymore, but just these routine. And I know, we do this, but having more of those opportunities for us to have, I want to say a town hall sort of thing. And I know that everyone is, of course, watching this from the comfort of their home, right, everyone? But I would love to have even more opportunities for us to meet with the community. And especially, this is something that came up during strategic planning, the special ed community, because they have been asking to have a more intentional meeting, and I don't know how the people who were talking to us about it would call it. Bridget and I had a meeting with some of them over, some of these special ed parents over Zoom, but they do want to have like a more of a formal meeting, and so I just want to put that out there as well. Yeah, that's all I have.
So, well, I don't think it's on. Okay, so I just sent my activities in to Jesus, and I just wanted to remind fellow board members that there is a breakfast for a networking breakfast at Bill's Cafe in the Alameda on Saturday. If you have nothing to do Saturday morning, really early, 8 a.m. On a Saturday, which is actually really late, you know, for me. I get up super early, so I'm like, oh, 8 a.m. that'll be the time for a second breakfast, just like in The Hobbit. So so anyway, if you'd like to go there, I'm putting in a plug for that. And then also, they are gonna have the fall dinner. They announced today, some of us were on the call with Dr. Dewan, and they announced that they're gonna try to have a special education student panel and additional speakers at Maggiano's this year for the fall dinner. So that's it.
Good. Well, I will probably try to send my comments to Jesus. I don't think I did last month. But it has been, as usual, very busy month. We did start a new committee at the Santa Clara CSBA, and it's called Success. It's for students in McKinney-Vento and homeless, reduce the problems that they have with homelessness and education. We did have LAC, we had a lot of other committees that I'm part of, Sharing and Hoffman and everything. We do have the Hoffman starting, so it would be great if we can submit some of our amazing work and have it recognized and win something. We have in CLSBA, we have the lunch for people who is gonna go to AEC, and we do have, and then there is the APISMA breakfast that is also gonna happen this year, and we already have I think it's the second week of September next year, we'll have our next Unity conference. Other than that, because apparently I wasn't in enough committees and sharing things, we're gonna start a new tradition in town that is the annual Ibero-American Festival. So that's gonna happen the 19th of next month, and I'm also co-chairing that. So I hope everybody in town goes to celebrate. Let's see, next month, well, other than that, in my personal life, kids are doing great. One of them will be moving next week to Santa Cruz, UC Santa Cruz, so big change. One junior at high school, and we had the back to school night yesterday. It was until very late, very interesting, all the classes for more than 2 hours, and we had to park like 4 blocks away in order to get there. The parking was full. And it has been a nice change this year. In every school, they have some sort of bilingual, well, maybe I didn't see it on Charities, but it was the only one. But I think in all I just visited half of them this year. I did the 5 of the schools, and there were a lot of bilingual programs and opportunities, so that was great. And services, so if we can keep trying our best, that always, kudos for that. I love that we are trying to perfect it. Moving forward with this year, we're already being 1 month in, looks amazing already.
Yeah, that was my first comment, is that today was day 18. We have 181 days of school So sometime tomorrow morning, we'll be at 10% of the school year, so that's a significant amount of the school year. And one thing that I know, but one thing I can say in visiting classrooms, and I think a little bit of this had to do with the calendar, like with starting on a Monday, I feel like we're really off and running. I was out at Columbia Middle School today, visiting classrooms, just really good work. Teachers are engaged, kids are fantastic. So I'm excited about, again, I want to be careful not to say the school year that's ahead, like we're in it, right? And it happens fast, so that's exciting. Like you, the last of the back to school nights was last night. I was at Columbia. I spent a lot of time at Columbia the last 2 days. I got to go to 4 of them, which is really good. And it was great to see everyone out there, good energy in all of those. Jesus and I will be sending out, or we'll be working on it, and Jesus will send out the dates for the board office hours. We're gonna get that going again, so watch for an email around that, and then like the sign up for those dates. Also, I'm really proud, for the first time last night, a parent, in this case Allison Joe, that shouldn't surprise you, came up to me and said, would you like to be a member of the PTA? No one's ever asked me that. And she had the QR code right there. So of course I joined. So I'm officially a member of the CMS PTA. And so I'm hereby announcing, if anyone comes up to me with a QR code and makes it easy for me to sign up, and like, let's say I was at Bishop tomorrow morning, I'll join.
Or tonight.
Or tonight. Okay, and the last thing I want to say is we've been honoring our employees for the years of service. We do that at the back to school assembly, and then they do it at the schools, and we did one in this boardroom. And like, I know that's important, but like when I got my pin, I was like super proud. So I have my 15-year pin. Someone asked me like, wow, did you think you'd be here 15 years? And yeah, I thought I'd be here 10 because I was in my previous 2 districts, 10 each. But I knew when I got to Sunnyvale that I really was home. So I'm particularly proud of this, and that's why I'm wearing it now. So 15 years. I don't know if there'll be 15 more, but anyway, those ceremonies mean a lot. So I'm gonna close with that.
Yeah, at least 10.
10 more, okay. I don't think you want me here in 10 years.
Good, so, and, oh yeah, and as we are also doing personal things, not as a board president, next Tuesday with another personal citizen who happens to be elected for the board, Peggy and I will be hosting every family who wants to know the facts about the measure Y that is gonna be in everybody's ballot. We're gonna be, passing all the facts about that at Washington Park, 4 to 6 p.m. And yeah, hope everybody in the board and everybody in town could go and be informed. We're gonna have games, toys, ice cream, and other stuff for the little ones. And with that, I think we are ready, if everybody's okay, with item 5. That will be comments from the Sunnyvale Education Association. So if there is a member online who would like to speak to us, this will be the perfect moment.
None.
Seeing none, then we move to item number 6, comments from the California School Employees Association. If there is any member from that body who would like to speak to us right now. This is the moment. Okay, since none, then we move from 6 to 7, comments from the public. So this portion of the agenda provides an opportunity for members of the public to directly address the governing board of any item of interest to the public. So please, I see we have one card. If there is anyone online, this is the moment to raise your hand. Do we have any?
None.
Okay, seeing none, then we only have one comment, and it's in person, and that will be from Peggy Brewster. Please come ahead, you have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Peggy Brewster. Good to see you all. I have a kinder and a 4th grader now at Bishop. I was just checking our charter PTA membership, and I'm kind of surprised that none of you over here on this side of the room are members. So I will send you invites because everybody else on this side of the room are members of the Bishop PTA. So thank you for joining. We really appreciate your support. That goes directly to the students at Bishop Elementary.
That's another approach.
Yeah. Probably very effective, I'm guessing. I am actually, and that was not the reason I put in the speaker card, but since you called that out, like, please do join. I'm here to talk about Measure Y, the parcel tax renewal, and to repeat what Isabel said about our big kickoff celebration on Tuesday at Washington Park from 4 to 6 p.m. I am hoping that all the community members that are listening, either really actually at home or in spirit, are planning on attending. We have at least one teacher performer, maybe more, hopefully more. We have a call out for teacher talent, maybe a magic show or something special, some acapella songs. It's really important that we have this community support. As you all know, we need 2/3 vote to pass this. We did a really great job in the community in March with bond measure C, and we got 70% vote, but that only required 55%. So we really need to come together with this really big community support and get people talking about it. We have stickers instead of buttons so that we can reuse the buttons that we have. Just put a sticker on top of it. Good. We have lawn signs coming in. We have, if you go to supportcentervilleschools.org, you can also personally endorse and give a donation. We need donations. So please make sure that you put some money into Sunnyvale Schools. We know that 1.1 million is not easy for anybody, for our Ed Foundation, for our PTAs. It's not easy to raise. And this is going to support our smaller class sizes, and the technology is going to retain the employees that we have and make sure that we can continue these programs. It's a renewal. It's not a new tax. So $59 per parcel per year, very reasonable, such a deal. Please, everybody vote yes on Measure Y. I will see you on Tuesday, and also Block Walk on the 28th, September 28th. We need some leads at each of the school sites to come up and get people to come out for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Good. Okay, with that, we move to consent agenda items. If we think we have the motion first and then the comment from the community.
We usually ask for comments first.
Huh? Okay, in the community, anyone in the community would like to talk about item numbers 8? This is the moment. Okay, seeing none, do we have a motion from the board to approve the agenda items as they are right now?
I would like to pull D.
You would like to pull D, okay. So do we have a motion to have everything but D as it is right now?
I so move.
Okay, and we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, with that, everyone who is okay with having everything but D, please say aye. Aye. Okay, so let's talk about, okay, so everything but D is approved, and so please go ahead and let's comment about D.
Sorry, I just want to really fast.
Do we need to make a motion first?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yes, do we have any member of the community who wishes to speak about 8.D? Please speak right now.
None.
Seeing none, then do we have a motion so Eileen can speak about D?
Sure, I'll move that we speak about AD.
Anyone who wants to?
No, you gotta make a motion.
To approve AD.
Okay, go ahead and let's talk about.
I'll second it.
I just want to pull this real fast to say that these two, and I know we were going to approve them, and I pulled them so that I just want to shout them out because they're really great advocates for their students, in particular, and the special needs students in the community. And I was at this meeting, I saw them talking, and I just really love these two parents and want to specifically shout them out. Our two SELPA CAC representatives, Sujata and Geeta. Geeta was here earlier, and I just wanted to give that shout out to them.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
Good, thank you. Any other comment about AD? Okay, can we vote right now? We need more motions about applying this? No? Okay, can everybody who is okay with approving AD, please say aye?
Aye.
Aye. With that, we move to item number 9, and we have presentation for summer school. Please go ahead. Thank you, Dr. Valentine.
Thank you so much. Great to hear me. Good evening, board, staff, partners, and members of the public. I am not John Watts. I'm sure you noticed that, but I'm pinch hitting tonight because he's unable to make it, unfortunately. But I want to start with giving kudos to the team, our classified staff who worked diligently over the summer, our teachers, our administrator, Karen Garcia, who's been doing it for several years, and of course, Chin Chin and John, who've done a phenomenal job with the summer programs. I'm going to first start by talking about our summer explorations, which is our biggest program. I know that you had a very extensive board cover, so I'm just going to cover broadly to make sure that we have time for any questions that may come up. But our summer explorations program encompasses all these different components. Our extended school year, along with social skills camp, our partnership with Stanford, which was at Bishop Elementary School and Columbia Middle School this summer. We had extended KLAS for many students at both Columbia and Bishop. Our Peer Connections program that Chin Chin is going to talk about later. We piloted a newcomer English group at Bishop and had an early preview into our newcomer curriculum that we're going to be implementing this year. And of course, we had learning excursions, an expansion of work that we had done at both elementary and middle. We never are happy with the status quo. The team is always working to improve the program and expand on what's working and to leave the things that aren't. I also want to talk about 2 additional summer programs briefly, and I'm going to go into details on the slides. This year we did pilot 2 programs, Jose Valdez Math Institute. This served 19 of our students. It was an external program at Stanford University, and also a 2-week summer program at San Miguel in Vargas. And we had 10 Sunnyvale teachers in this program, teaching this program, about 100 students, and it was on site for 2 weeks at the end of the school year. I'm not going into all the details about the challenges with Jose Valdez Math Institute or the positives, but I'll go into one challenge and one positive. So I think when we went into this program, we thought this could be beneficial to our students. We wanted to see what the benefits could be. What we found in the program is some logistical challenges that we couldn't quite troubleshoot around. But I think the biggest issue is that the math instruction in this program doesn't yet match the instruction of practices in the district. We really want robust mathematical thinking. We don't want students to just memorize algorithms as a way to demonstrate math knowledge, and that's really what the program was focused on. We know that the quality of our staff is excellent. This confirmed that the quality of our staff is excellent. I do want to highlight a positive because due to a challenge with logistics, our students got to eat at the Stanford Dining Hall, much to the jealousy of other districts and the staff at Valdez. But our students reported that their favorite thing about this program was eating in the Stanford Dining Hall. I don't blame them. It looked delicious. Our 2-week program had a lot of successes and also is a specific program. So as John wrote in the board cover, this would be something that we would continue to explore and also would be constrained based on what we could provide. Our biggest program is our summer explorations program. We want to maintain that because it benefits so many students in our district. But there are benefits to the 2-week program. We have some academic focus for the school year. It's our teachers at their site with their students that it kind of just extend the school year, the 2 weeks past the school year. It allowed us to keep those students on campus. And also it's not a full day program, it's a little bit shorter. And we run into some constraints, like this isn't a program that we would run at all of our schools after the school year ends. That would limit us in terms of just logistics in terms of facilities cleaning and construction. But we did see benefits from the 2-week program. And then as you can see, our summer explorations program, our partnership with Stanford, our work with the San School Year, that serves the most students in our district. I'm gonna go through these 2 slides, and kudos to the board member who found the error on the next slide. But when we look at the summer program, we're really looking to target our our students of the neediest populations. So we are looking to target our English learners, our Hispanic students, our Hispanic English learners, and our socioeconomically disadvantaged students. Part of this has to do with the funding that we use for summer, and the other part is that we know that these students do benefit from these summer programs, and they're also not limited to. This is the percentage of the students in each student group, and then specific numbers represented in each of our summer programs. What I think is actually more interesting would have been this slide without the error. So let me walk you through this. When we looked at our numbers, we were thinking about, did we really target and meet the needs of our students? Did we really have more English learners, more Hispanic students, more Hispanic English learners, more socioeconomically disadvantaged students, and also Junto students enrolled in our summer programs compared to our district averages? So if you look at the top line, we did. Let me give you our district-wide numbers, which are not accurate at the bottom. In comparison, English learners, about 30% of our district is English learners. So we are targeting the right students. For our Hispanic students, about 40% of our student population is Hispanic. For our Hispanic English learners, about 20% in the district are Hispanic English learners. We're about 33% socioeconomically disadvantaged, and Juntos is 7% of our school district. So when we think about targeting certain populations of students for our summer programs, we are able to target it. Please ignore the bottom slide. We'll fix it and get those numbers out to you. Summer school over the years has served a number of different students. I think you see the biggest bubble at 2022. We know that that was the need after the pandemic or during the pandemic. And since then, we're about right-sized. We're 668, that was all 3 of our summer offerings. And we actively recruited. I know your board probably got questions about, did all students get into the program who wanted to get into the program? And the answer is yes, they did, with the caveat of they might not have gotten in when they wanted to get in. So for example, some students may have been like waiting to register for summer programs while their neighbors are getting in. And we said, we'll have you on the wait list. All students were exited off the wait list, but it might have been the day before summer school started, but we were able to offer slots for all students who are interested. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chief.
Clarifying question, so for students who were who were on the wait list, could they put themselves on the wait list, or was everything done by referral?
So students and families could put themselves on the wait list.
I'm not here all the time for this. Yes, please. Everyone needs help sometimes. Hi, everyone. My name is Chin Chin. I'm happy to be talking about summer alongside Christina. So I want to talk a little bit about what goes into making an effective summer program. And one of those elements, of course, is all of our personnel, right? Summer can be hard to staff for, right? We have some of our students with the most needs. We really want qualified staff, but it's during a time when many staff deservedly want to take some time off. So that can be a challenge. But we had over 50 great teachers, and we really benefited from our connection with Stanford. We provided at least 12 of those teachers, so that's really awesome. The other piece that's really important is having that staff to run that after-school program that will also facilitate more of our students attending the day summer explorations program. So we had over 20 staff engaged with that work. And one of the things you'll note there, this is BTs. So BT stands for Behavior Technicians. And what we did last year was we recreated 5 8-hour behavior technician positions that were 11 months. So they're automatically included in the count for summer KLAS support. And it also means that some of our students who have the most behavioral needs can also attend that after-school programming. Okay, next slide, please. All right, adding on, we have even more staff to support those frontline staff. On this slide, you see various related services, support staff who are in our classrooms, front office staff who are supporting all of the staff and all of the various other staff and food services, operations, everything you really need to make the building run, right? And that's over 100 additional staff supporting all of our summer programs. So it really does take a village. Another element of summer is just preparation. It's 4 weeks in summer, but it's much longer in terms of the actual preparation. We start planning and visioning in the fall, and we start our active work in December in terms of all our hiring, supply gathering, you know, like establishing locations, getting buses in place, all of that. And so this is just one glimpse of how crowded our mailroom and our other rooms get with all of the supplies we need for summer. And then one other component is just our collaborations and our partnerships. So as you all know, we have a long-standing partnership with Stanford, and these pictures are from the first times when some of our teacher candidates from Stanford came on campus, and this is at CMS. And so it's really awesome to see just how many there were, just even in these pictures, right? And there's a lot of mutual benefits here. You know, obviously our teacher candidates benefit from having this on-site experience, you know, with a guiding teacher there. We also benefit in terms of, you know, our teachers kind of re-examining their practices, maybe getting reinvigorated and reminded about why they entered this profession in the first place. Our students benefit from this lower student to teacher ratio, and then we all just generally benefit because we have more teachers in our pipeline as well. Turning over to some of our specialized programs here, the extended school year. For those of you who are not aware, this is the special education programming for students who have IEPs who are found to qualify on the basis of established regression and challenges with recruitment. So we had 149 who attended, and the awesome thing about our programs this summer is that they were fully integrated. We had a huge SDC presence at both sites, as well as related services for all students, really, whether they were part of BSY or part of summer explorations. We also did a social skills camp where we supported some students who didn't necessarily qualify, but still had social skills needs. And we also had an additional 30 students who were just at summer explorations at Bishop. They didn't have an IEP, but they definitely demonstrated social skills or social emotional needs, and we were able to provide tier 2 social skills supports for them this summer. And of course, the goal of BSY for us is to minimize regression, and you can see we did a good job with that this summer. And then one other program I want to talk about, I'm really proud of it, is our Peer Connections program. We started this last year, and I was really happy that we could continue it on this year. Last year we had 7 mentors joining us, and this year we had 18 rising 7th and 8th graders joining us as peer mentors. They were buddied up with various TK to 5th grade peer buddies in special day classes at Bishop. And their day consisted of coming in, getting some kind of like lesson related to special education, and then they had 2 rotations with peer buddies, then they did a debriefing. And at the end of it, they did this final project, and they could choose how they wanted to reflect on their experience, share about what they learned about inclusive education, and an idea also for how to promote inclusive education. And so those are some samples. I kind of wanted to read that middle one there because it kind of revealed how much the student learned about inclusive education, but also about himself. And the student was also a student who has an IEP as well. So he said, "I've learned that no matter what condition they have or are in, no matter if they receive special education services or not, whether they require more resources or not, everyone deserves a proper education and a safe education space. I also learned I really like kids and helping them. I learned that a safe learning environment equals a better education. I learned that all the teachers here are actually very nice. And then the last thing I learned is that I am really experienced with children." So I thought that was really great. All right, I'm gonna pass it back to Christina.
It was hard to follow that quote, not to lie. But as Chichen said, summer does take the collaboration of many departments and it starts early. And one thing that we did want to highlight along with busing and facilities is the work that we did with food services over the summer. So over the summer, our new chef, Samantha Van Gogh, did work on like mocking up some new food options for students and collected feedback from students on what food options they liked. So not only did the students that went to Valdez enjoy the Stanford program, our students over summer really enjoyed things like tropical oats, Korean bulgogi burritos. It also sounded pretty wonderful. This summer, we really expanded the number of learning excursions our students went on. We really did connect those to the units that students were learning about. And also we built on that hands-on experiential process for all of our students. And this was also an opportunity for inclusion. So where and when appropriate, and when we thought we would set our students up for success, they also attended field trips or learning excursions with their general education peers. But the last learning excursion I want to highlight was the middle school Stanford excursion. So this year, all of our students at middle school went to Stanford University. And since 2010, we partnered with Stanford for our summer explorations program. Later, I think Ruth Ann has something for the board. But this partnership has been really beneficial to us in terms of staffing, really thinking about program. And this particular field trip brought tears to our staff eyes as well as to our student eyes. So when the buses arrived at Stanford, there was cheering, there was clapping, and there were some tears, tears of excitement, tears of maybe some nerves, but they were very excited to be on campus. Our students began to see themselves on a college campus. They took pictures of the murals that they saw. They saw the Latina dorms, and got to hear what that experience is like for many first-gen students at Stanford directly. And so when we think about our Sunnyvale Promise and like really encouraging our students to live a life of joy and purpose outside of our schools, really hope that this one experience led them to see themselves in college and see their culture and being celebrated. So I just wanted to end with that. Our summer program continues to be exemplary, and again, kudos to our staff who worked so hard to make that happen over the summer. Ruth Ann?
Thank you, Christina. I really appreciate having an opportunity to come and address the board as well as the district staff to share our gratitude from the Stanford Teacher Education Program. Our program would not be the program it is if we didn't have the 4-week summer program. It is rare that there is a university teacher education program that has a rich program that for 4 weeks before the actual school year begins, where our teacher candidates have an opportunity to interact with kids, probably the most needy kids, as well as learn how to begin to work with a cooperating teacher so that when they start their first placement in fall, what we hear is that they have a leg up. They're starting running versus doing a slow walk. And so it makes a huge difference for our teacher candidates. But as Christina just highlighted with this experience of the field trip, it makes a huge difference for your students in your school district. So it truly is a unique partnership that started 15 years ago, and one that I hope goes another 15 years, and I know I won't be here for that, but we had an opportunity to be recognized by the Stanford Community Engagement Program and get nominated and won an award for a beautiful community partnership where we demonstrate that there is unique value and benefit for both the Stanford Teacher Education Program and the Sunnyvale School District. And there was a luncheon in Palo Alto that Dr. Gallagher and Dr. Dean, Michelle joined us. And it was just a very rewarding experience to be recognized for the incredible work that we do on behalf of the kids in the Sunnyvale School District and our teacher candidates. The work that we have done over the 15 years, as Christina says, gets better and better. We're always looking to improve. But at the end of this summer school, we said we're not quite sure how we can make it much better. Much better. It was like we were all pinching ourselves. It was one of the best experiences. And I truly believe it was because we integrated the program in such an immense way. And our teacher candidates had an opportunity to see special education staff and regular education staff working together on a minute by minute basis. And that Bishop School with the open quad area really gave an opportunity for special ed kids and the general ed students to integrate and get services. So cannot thank you enough for helping our teacher candidates start their professional lives in such a unique environment. And if it wasn't for Dr. Dean and Dr. Valentine, as well as Jonathan and Chin Chin and Karen Garcia and Christina Brown, we wouldn't have had the success that we did. So thank you. And this is the
award that we got. We thought it would be best place at the school district. I'm sure you have a showcase where.
Oh, we do. We have a.
So that you can add it to it. And then the California State Senate also.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Elias and I heard take a picture. Take a picture.
We could.
Yes, we can.
Let's take a picture. Right out in front.
Heard that. Elias and I heard.
Hey, field trip, guys.
I
you should go in there.
Oh, everything. Get in there. Squeeze in. This photographer tell you, squeeze in. Squeeze.
We're squeezing.
All right. 3, 2, 1. 5, 4. 3, 2, 1. 6, 4. All right.
6, 4.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Thank you.
On to the next 90% of the school year.
Some questions?
Well,
Thank you. Yes, and before that, if there are any comments or questions from the public before we start the moment? Okay, seeing none, then we really wanted to thank you guys for all your dedication and all your work. And for this is so nice, and we're gonna put it in a special place. And we hope to keep having our partnership for many, many years. And with that, I think we can start our questions and comments. Before that, every year we start, this was the first year that I wasn't able to come. I was out in July, but every year is amazing, and I see a lot of the learning happening and a lot of the interactions and their families. And there is every year the question about if we are able to measure somehow so we can learn and do better next year, or keep the good work. If there is some sort of measurement about the learning happening during summer and the benefit for the kids, what we learn that we can repeat or improve, or,
I think in terms of quantitative data, something that we've continued to work on and we haven't quite nailed yet, but we keep working at, it is being able to track the students who attend summer school against a control sample of similar demographic background to see if the benefit of summer carries on throughout the school year. I think a challenge is we know that our students love the summer programs. Summer Explorations is the one that we can speak to the most because it's been the most longstanding, but our students share, I really enjoyed the program, I loved working with the range of adults. Oftentimes our students really enjoy working with the steppies. They're young and hip, according to our kids, which actually just dated me a bunch, but I use those words and not what the kids are using now. But like anecdotally, we know that our students really enjoy the program. I think the question is how much does that carry in terms of academic gains? And we don't know if we're going to be able to measure that as much as we do continually look to measure student self-identity as a student, and that summer explorations gives our students the opportunity to say, I am a learner, I am successful, I needed something a little bit different, and they're re-engaged in the school process when they come back to us in the fall. It's something we keep working at.
So, Rita, I know I was there, I told you to come up with it, because I really felt it when Isabel and I have walked through some of our schools recently, and we're like, are the teachers just getting younger? I mean, I know we're getting older, but I'm like, are they really getting younger? And I think you mentioned that they actually are, right?
Yeah, because I'm getting older.
And then you have a lot more multilingual studies.
Yeah, I really think our program has done an outstanding job over the last 4 years recruiting first gen students, students of color. And over 80% of the students in our program currently are either first gen or students of color. And I know that, I think, Isabel, you were addressing the bilingual programs in the district. At the middle school, where the bilingual students were more integrated, or ESL students were more integrated into the classrooms, we had a step teacher candidate that spoke Spanish in every classroom, which I think just adds to the learning that goes on in that classroom.
I think another just interesting fun fact is that over the last couple of years, we've had teacher candidates at Stanford who are former Sunnyvale students. Like they were our students, said, did you know I went to Sunnyvale? And then they come back and they're really excited to be giving back to the community.
Yeah. And you had ethnic studies at CMS this year for the summer pilot. How did that go?
Extremely well. Our faculty director, Dr. Ira Litt, is working on a report to give to the dean of the School of Education, because there was funding that came through to support that program. And so he is currently heading to Michigan to work on the Harris Wall campaign. He will be back in November, and we'll hear more then.
I have a couple more, but I'm gonna wait. You guys go.
I just want to piggyback on that, the ethnic studies pilot, I saw it and it was really cool, and it was, I think it was specifically a Latinx lens, which for many of our students is so valuable because that's very relevant to their lives. And I, depending of course on, you know, how this report goes after this gentleman gets back, I would love to have our district explore that for an all year, as a year-round curriculum or year-round model, and also continue that as these students head into high school. I know that when we talked over the summer, it was for the 6th, 7th, and 8th. These kids would be taking this program for those 4 weeks, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and and it would be, you know, they would be taking it sequentially for those 3 years, and that's how it was looking. But assuming everything goes well and everything, it just looked really cool, and I would love to see that expanded. I also wanted to say that I couldn't click on the thing to see the examples from Peer Connect, and I just sent you an email. But last year you brought us a poster, and if you could bring us posters again, that'd be cool too.
I have that upstairs if you're
Thank you. I really love Peer Connect. It's like one of my favorite district programs, and I think we should Hoffman it. I'm gonna say that. I think we should Hoffman it. It's so great, and I just love seeing these kids make these connections with each other. Actually, that might be all I have.
For the Peer Connect, to add on to that, I was wondering if that's something that we could do year round, because we have the late start Wednesdays, or if that would be something, like, I think you said when we were there are a couple high school students. I don't know if that's something that maybe the high school district would wanna look at with us, like if we were giving community college credit, because they have all the community college programs there. They have, like, whether their kids are at Fremont or at Homestead, they get the dual enrollment now. I don't know if that's something that we could continue during the school year, but I just love the heart of that, and I just think it just matches our district culture, you know?
I mean, I think that is the dream, you know, the program that we modeled it off of is one in like, I think southern LA, and it is a high school elective there. So, you know, like it's possible. I think it's just building up to that and seeing like what are the opportunities to incorporate it into our structure if that's what we're looking at, so.
That would be great. And the just as you say that you did have alumni from our district in your program yesterday. My son in his back to school, he has 7 periods and 2 of the classes are co-teach. And all the teachers, so 9 people were alumni of the Fremont Union High School, some of them even from the same high school. Although I wouldn't say their leadership is particularly diverse, but their teachers are local. Interesting, so that would be a great thing to have.
Nice.
So the only thing, I'm kind of going back, Christine, when you're talking about the, you're saying that we have been tracking to see if their achievement is higher, or we're going to start doing that for the summer, like kind of, that's during the school year, right? Like, are they performing better, or are they performing the same as similar demographic students who didn't do summer school?
Yeah, so we've been trying to track it and we haven't quite dialed in the technical parts of it accurately. So then when we've done it like halfway through the year, we're like, actually we didn't calculate this accurately. So it's something that we keep working to dial in. That being said, we do see that we have been able to measure that students who leave summer with similar demographics and start the school year are starting at a more advanced place than students who of similar demographic background didn't attend summer. Over the course of the school year, you know that there are many different factors that could play into academic growth. And so we actually don't think that that's a measurement of the summer program as much as it is a reflection of like maybe the practices that are happening during the school year. But it's something that we hope to bring forth next year in our presentation.
Yeah, that's great. And then I assume and then you're splitting out the different summer program, or maybe it's all coming together. And then I think this is what you were saying, but maybe not for sure. So I mean, I've been talking about that summer school, trying to get those numbers for quite a while, so I'm glad to hear that we're like working on getting that space. But then that space also, right, like the academic is an important piece, right? But then also that space, which especially is one of our signature strategies of having our students be more engaged in attendance, right? So were you saying that you're gonna also track that? Like that's already the plan to also track, so like the students who are doing summer school, now that they're more engaged, are they then gonna have better attendance and engagement? I mean, I don't know if there's other ways to track engagement. Is that making sense what I'm saying?
No, that's definitely making sense. Actually,
Okay,
that's not
and was
something
that something you guys were planning to do?
That isn't something that we considered doing,
Okay.
but actually now that
Okay, something that you said made me think, whether it was like they were doing it or just like, oh, like that would actually be an important, I mean, so really that kind of actually nails our 2 signature strategies, right? Like more growth and the attendance, student engagement.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the idea.
That is something that Stanford could support.
Can the interpreter hear us when we're?
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
But they get close to the mic, or is it getting picked up?
They can't hear them at all.
Oh, sorry.
He's thumbs up, I think he is interpreting.
Yes,
Thank you.
Yes, perfect. And I see all the boxes there. So you're already starting to put together orders for December, so you start ordering things?
No, I think we don't have room, I think, to stockpile all those things. And really a lot of what was ordered, we have, I think, standard things for every classroom, just a base set. But then a lot of it is gonna be individualized based off of what the teacher's planning to do, right? For their thematic units and that kind of stuff. And so we can't do that until we have the teachers. So a lot of the ordering actually starts in April and that kind of thing, and then we get boxes starting to stack up in May. If you like come around my office in May, good luck finding me because I'm behind a wall with boxes. But yeah, that picture was from then. It's hard to take a picture of more of the planning type of things, but that's more visceral.
So then there was something that came out from SEC.
We haven't
Oh, yeah,
down the line.
sure.
I just wanted to say that, I appreciate the continuing innovation to make everything more, seamless and have that integration continue on through the year. I think you've informed our practice and our practice has informed you about what students need and what teachers, new coming teachers support. Can you tell me if the engagement from your students, do they feel better supported having had that? I mean, you anecdotally said that that's what you observed, but is that something that you're able to say that it actually demonstrates a leg up?
So, you know, every dark cloud has a silver lining. COVID, we didn't get to have summer school for 2 of our cohorts. The feedback that we received from those 2 cohorts is, gee, I really missed out by not having that opportunity to participate in summer. And then several of those teachers who didn't get that summer school experience came back to teach summer school so that they could see what it was really like, and it was like, it wasn't fair. What can we do?
Okay, so for SCCSBA, they sent out something about high dosage tutoring. You know, it kind of made me think when you were saying that Valdez Institute, that it didn't match our teaching practices, and what we want for math for our kids. I'm really excited that, well, I'm glad that they got the good food from Stanford for the summer. That was for the weeks that they were there, that's great. But I'm really excited that we experimented with it, because that would have been just like a really hanging question for me, like if these kids who are far below grade level in math, they had an opportunity, and we're hearing that they would have an opportunity to like make up a grade level over the summer, and then they never got it because we didn't try it. So I'm really proud of our district for trying something. And I would just say to, you know, whether it's, you know, a high dosage tutoring, or whether it's a different program, or whether it's something else we create, I really hope that we continue to go after that kind of an intensive look at a subject matter, that we could maybe support some kids who are in middle school or going into middle school, you know, for the, you know, like whether it's like that or whether it's something else that we design or try. When we were at CLSBA, there were a couple of like outdoor education places that were they have like intensive tutoring and stuff, and then they go to a ropes course. It seemed very Victor Rios-y. You know, I know there's other things out there, but I hope we keep experimenting and trying different things that maybe we can, you know, with small groups of students, to see if anything is a model that we want to pursue. So I just want to thank you for trying it out.
Yeah, definitely. We always want to, as we have the kids, to use the opportunity to do better.
I have one more thing to say, that if in the future, I don't know if we could fix that traffic problem going into Bishop, I don't know how we would do that, but that was a difficult thing this year.
You mean like when there were so many adults on the campus?
Exactly, so all those adults came in, because all their students are there, but then the parents had to come and drop off their kids too, and maybe, I don't know what that would look like, maybe we can talk to the city next year and get some help with traffic control, or I don't know, parking help or something, but.
It's a little bit of function of all the programs were in one spot,
Yeah.
because we didn't have San Miguel available, I think, too, so, I don't know, but yeah, you're right, it was, when I went to visit, I had to park blocks away.
Yeah.
Nancy just walked.
It's a full, it's a full program, so
Yeah,
it's gonna be.
it makes absolute sense, given like everyone who was there, it was just,
Yeah, there's a lot.
yeah. I had a mom, whose kid was going to Bishop for the school year and was like, is this like this every year? Because I might leave, I might just enroll in private. And I was like, no, it's not like this during the school year, so.
But it was great to see everyone. It was just such a magical
That's the
summer,
word.
so. It's very cool.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
And with that, we move to the next item, which actually requires action, which is review and action, and it's item number 10. And the first one will be approval of unaudited Accural's financial report for 2023, 2024. Please go ahead. It's here.
That's a tongue twister. I'll try to say it like 3 times fast.
All right. So I want to start by giving a shout out to our amazing interpreter. He is interpreting things from the bleachers. This man is incredible, and it's a special talent that it takes. So shout out to you, sir. All right. I'm Arthur Cuffey, the Chief Business Officer here with Sunnyvale School District, here to present the unaudited actuals for fiscal year 23-24, as well as the revised budget for 24-25. Wanted to start with another shout out to the team. These are the books. Books are closed, but there's a lot of work that goes into getting to this point. So I just want to shout out Mita and Trang. They were working diligently to make sure all the invoices were in before the cutoff. Trang, she skipped a vacation to do so. So shout out to them. Shout out to Connie, who's probably still upstairs doing payroll things. Got her thing, got everything finalized. And also Jeannie, Suzanne, and Cindy, and all the miscellaneous reports that they work on during this period. So none of this is possible without them. So I just wanted to celebrate the awesome work that they do. And I wanted to start with grounding us in our promise. So our promise is that we will know every student by name, strength, and need. This is a test. Can I memorize? No.
That's pretty good.
Ready to?
Ready. Ready to excel in high school and beyond. And to lead, to lead a life of joy and purpose. And so that is a strong promise. That is our goal. And it is my belief that our investments, the way we use our resources, are the actions to making that goal a reality. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. I'm going to give you an abbreviated version of it due to time. But my goal today is that we'll review the year that was. We will, I wanted to share some data that I thought was relevant to give you context, some of our trends, some of our accomplishments, and potential challenges in front of us. And so we'll talk about the year that was, the fiscal year 23-24, the budget cycle. We will break down the general fund expenditures, look at the past, present, and future. We'll look at a little bit of some historical data from our special education program. We'll touch on the revision to the budget and the reserves. And then we'll circle back to our core values and the necessary steps that we're taking to turn these promises and statements into action. Okay, so first is the budget cycle. Our budget cycle is a 15-month cycle, started back for the 23-24 school year, started back in June 2023. We come back to you every quarter, every 3 months, with some update to that budget. And then it ends 15 months later, which is today in September, with the year that was. So if you look at the data that I've provided you, some of the biggest variances from when we started to when we finished were the revenues, the services, and the capital outlay. So I'll give just a brief bit of context as to what those variances are. So revenues, you have to remember timing is everything. When we're adopting a budget, because of the timing of that report, we don't even have a May revise to know what the governor is going to do with one-time fundings. Are we getting it? Are we not? So we will assume the best information we have at that time. We also don't know how property taxes are going to end. And so we'll talk a bit about that later because 2 years in a row, we kind of got some surprises at the very end. So that is basically the variance that you see in the revenue. When you look at the services, there were increased services based on or because of the increase in need for social emotional learning, behavioral supports, and also just the cost of those services. So that there was an increase from those. And then lastly, there were increases for capital outlay. We bought 2 new buses funded by grant funds, but it does show as a variance from when we started to when we finished. I forgot to mention in the services, the utilities sharply went up. We did not anticipate that back in June when we first adopted the budget. You guys probably have noticed in your own bills at home, the rates were increased heavily. And also the expansion of transportation. So those are kind of the things that led to these sharp increases. The bottom line, surplus or deficit, did not change much from the 15 months ago when we initially reviewed this. So I think that just points out the diligent work that preceded me. Next slide, we will look at the past, present, and future of our general fund. So the things that pop off the page for me here are the total expenditures that have steadily been increasing from 116 million to 127 million to 142 million. And those are actuals, the books are closed on those years. Also, you can see the percentage of our total general fund as compared, that goes to our personnel. So well over 80% of our expenditures go to our people. We understand the importance of investing in our people. They're the ones that actually do the work to make these promises and serve our kids, make the promises turn into action. Also on the bottom, you'll see a year-over-year change comparison. So you can kind of see where things have changed year over year. So again, just context that I wanted to give you. However, these numbers provide the context, but they're not the story. We'll jump forward to our special education program. This is a historical view of some data points from our special education program. So our district is committed to equity. Our special education students are some of the students with the highest needs. So we're going to meet those needs. That is our promise. What I want to point out on this is not only the increasing cost per student that we see over years, not necessarily the enrollment trends or whatnot, but really the contribution that our general fund has to contribute to make the program solvent. Now, the reason, again, I wanted to point this out is the federal and state government fund us based on total enrollment. It does not have a direct correlation with the number of students in the special education program. So although our total enrollment might be declining and our funding from the state and federal government will decline with it, the enrollment in our program is not. And so I just wanted to point out that the funding from the state and federal level is not adequate to fund these programs. So it does require a contribution from the general fund. Now, that has implications on the rest of our budget and what we can do elsewhere. So jumping forward to the new year, 24-25, and the revisions that we made to the budget. Really, there are two revisions that we made. Back in June, we had estimates for where 24-25 fiscal year would start. Now they are known. So those adjustments have been made. Also, right after we took the adopted budget, or we brought you the adopted budget, we actually got great news from the county assessor's office. There were two large events that added to the assessed value, the roll, both from Google. So if let's see, straight down Matilda, which is east of, all the way towards the bay, east of the 237, Google is expanding. So they bought one property, they built another, and so those finally got assessed and added to the roll. Just spoke with the assistant assessor about that yesterday. So that has happened two years in a row. Now it's challenging for us as a district or as a finance team to project or assume that something like that's going to happen. So we're going to work with the assessor's office to dial that in a bit more. But those really were the revisions to the budget. Jumping forward to the general fund multi-year summary. So this is a very high level view of the revenues and expenditures over the last few years. We'll start with the revenues. The revenues are the lighter shade blue. So I wanted to point out that we definitely see the revenues growing over time. However, there are two types of revenues, just to give you a bit of context. There are unrestricted and restricted revenues. Now, if you only look at revenue minus expense to see surplus and deficit, you might be missing some important context. We get multi-year grants that are restricted in nature. Now, we might get a grant in the year 22-23 where we have to recognize that revenue when we get it. So you'll see a big bump in 22-23 because we received that grant that year. However, we have 4 to 5 years to spend it. And so in the following years, you'll see the expenditures from that grant, but the revenue is only recognized in that year. Another type of funding source would be if we received a grant in the same year, but spent it over 5 years, well, we would have to recognize that revenue when we spent or earned it. So the differences in those types of revenues can show some variances in these figures. And without that context, it can be a bit misleading. Give me 1 second. Okay, so we're going to jump forward to our reserves. So the story and the takeaway with our reserves, over the last few years, we had a unique combination of great property tax growth, an immense funding from the state and federal government, an investment in education, which allowed us to grow our reserves because it supported the needs of our students. So now as those funds slow down, the economy slows down, we do plan a spend down of those reserves. However, we are starting the work already to look into how we can become more efficient. I want to point out that I want you to remember that these figures assume no raises in the out years. So we've started the work to prioritize and look into our practice That work is underway. I actually think it's a perfect opportunity with our new strategic plan for us to do this work. I'm glad that Nancy mentioned it earlier. She actually echoed some sentiment that I heard recently, and that was the focus has shifted from quantity to quality. We want to focus on the quality of services to our students and challenge maybe old mindsets that are out there that more might be better, because it doesn't guarantee that it's better just because we have more. So I'll kind of close this out with our equity statement and our core values. So in summary, we take our promise very seriously. It's our why. When we challenge staff or go through our prioritization exercise, it's our why. When we assess the return on our investments on long-standing practices and decide to implement change, it's our why. To fulfill our promises, we understand that we have to engage in reflective practices as stated in our equity statement. I'll end by closing out, speaking to a few of our core values that I feel have been steering our work of late. First would be excellence. We hold high expectations of ourselves and others, strive for continuous improvement, and accept accountability for the outcomes we produce. Courage. We create opportunities for positive change by boldly facing challenges to break barriers, taking chances, and imagining new possibilities. So in closing, I just want to say that we've been really fortunate the last few years, had some strong years. We've accomplished a ton over those years. We celebrate that. But as we enter into this new chapter of uncertainty and slowing down, we do so with caution. So that was the context I wanted to provide, the data that I thought would help give you that context. But the story is really about how we're using our funds, how it's benefiting our students, and how it turns these statements and promises into action. So with that, I'll take any questions you may have.
Thank you very much for putting it together in such a clear way and easy for everybody to see and understand. And with that, before we start, do we have any comments or questions from the public? This is the moment. Okay, seeing none. Before we can start discussing, we're gonna need a motion to approve it as it is. Do we have a motion?
I move the approval of the unaudited actual financial report for 23-24.
And the second?
I'll second.
Okay. And with that, again, thank you very much for this, the board and probably everybody. And just a couple of questions that I seem to be pointing out before, but the first one will be one that I always see every year with the comment, people do talk about how much do we spend per student. So it seems that from the point of view of what we're spending this year and the number of students is roughly 27,000, but as you say, if we only, that's not real because only on special ed, we spend about 57,000 average per special ed kid.
So, so how much we spend on average for all kids won't be exactly the same as how much we spend per student in our special education program. So are you asking how much we spend per student?
Per student, per average, if we,
Yes.
take in consideration that actually it's not true because the average special ed, and again, we have kids that might be over 100,000, is about 57 per kid, but if we put them all in the same pot, we
Yeah.
are about 27.
Yes, so that would be pretty simple to calculate. You take the total expenditures and like you said, divide by the total students.
And then, well.
Can I jump in for a second? I think Arthur might agree with this because I'm learning. It's a little misleading because like he said, you book expenditures and revenue, it's not even every year, right? So on the multi-year assumptions that Arthur puts towards the front of his book, I've got it here on my thing. One of the figures, it's not how much we spend per student, but it's how much property tax there is per student.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good figure,
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
So,
That's how much we have, yeah.
So, so 23-24, we got $19,600 of property tax per student.
That's like a whole thing that they always say is like per pupil spending, right? Like that's like it's a comparison thing and it's different, every district does it differently, so.
It's because it's a very different, it's, no 2 years are the same. It's just how you book the expenditures.
Becker, when I went to Sacramento, he was telling us that when he started, the state was spending under $9,000 per kid, and now they were very proud because it was close to $12,000 per kid. So it's a number that they throw around.
He probably didn't mean spending, he probably meant what is the revenue
Receiving.
That's
Yeah.
probably what he meant.
Yeah, and I think you touched on it. It doesn't factor in, this year we bought 2 new buses. That would skew the numbers because those buses will be used for many years. But if you just, there's so many nuances in the numbers that they can be misleading. So context is key. I'm not sure how relevant the total expenditure divided by the total students would be, but I mean, it is a data point.
Yeah, but as I remember when we were talking about extra buses, it's about $300K that we pay for each bus after the grants. And this year we have 153 million of expenditure in comparison with 142. So we do increase our.
Yeah, that's just an example. The buses is just an example.
Right. But I think the budget year of 24-25, which includes the 3% raise for staff, it also includes some new positions that we added because we have one-time funds to spend. Now, those funds came in a prior year, right? And so we're spending in a future year. So there's that nuance there. Again, they don't make it easy for us. One resource might be one way and the other resource might be another. So when you're trying to just look high level without that context, you can be misled.
Okay, yeah. Just 2 quick comments. One, I really appreciate like helping, what you just said now, but you said it earlier, right? To help us understand that space of sometimes there is extra money on a year, just there really was, like we didn't maybe budget for it, but like, anyways, I really appreciate that. That's super helpful. And then just a side piece, I really like that you include, right, like the promise. I know other people do too. Like I really love having the promise in a lot of places, but I also love that you just plug those into the slides. Like, so we didn't really necessarily talk about it that much, but for me, just, I like the more times I see those things, it just keeps in my head. And so I appreciate.
I was challenging myself.
Well, it's not necessarily.
Can I remember verbatim?
Yeah, but it's like,
I'm working on it.
And the other things at the end, right? Well, it's not necessarily technically fully related to like the budget thing. I just appreciate you bringing that in. Yeah.
Oh, no, I would disagree. I understand conceptually you wouldn't think.
Yeah, well, it does, yeah, but that's what I'm saying, is like, you wouldn't think you have to put that in for a budget report.
Yeah, and it helps, we're always in the 80s, and as you said before, we're in the research service, we're service providers pretty much. So we're always in the 80 percentile for salaries only. And yeah, even though this year we did spend we invested a lot on the kids, these that are not people. But then, we're making an assumption, as you say, it's an assumption of 84 and 85% in the next couple of years, but it's not real because we're about to start negotiations, so it's gonna be deeper deficit, but then still we have money from other years.
Yeah, well, you'll
Not
have to
to
wait and see. 3 months from now, I'll be back and you'll see the newest iteration.
How much we panic?
No panic,
No panic then.
staff is on the job, don't worry.
I have a comment, I just wanna say, I really appreciate the slide deck that went with the report, you know, because the report can tell you a lot, even with the cover pages on it and everything, but that is very helpful. I felt like I was looking at someone's notes, like, look at this part, like, you know, it was very clear, so I appreciated the presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, it makes the numbers speak.
Yes.
For us.
I have a clarifying question and then a lot of questions I don't need to have answered now, and maybe I'll follow up with someone later. Services, could you define what services are in slide 2?
Yes. So services can be, it can be personnel, but not our own. So we might hire an agency to come out and do behavioral services. Services would also be a software license, would be under services. It could be travel and conference for our teachers. It could be, it is the utility cost is under services. What else might?
Where's food? Like our.
The child
Great
nutrition.
question. It wouldn't be in the general fund.
Okay.
However, Sodexo, who purchases our food for us, we pay them a service fee. So it doesn't actually show up as food, shows up as the service for Sodexo, but in a different fund.
Okay. And then
Great
I
question.
have so many questions about the special ed slide. First of all, we had a jump of 80-ish students in that particular year, and that's like an entire grade at some schools. And then like there are just so much variation in these numbers, and then we're going up so much. I don't need to follow up on this now. Can I make who should I talk to, Linda or something, or Tasha? Okay, I'll
Linda
make
or
a-
I, or both, yes.
Okay, I'm
Mhm.
just so
Yes.
curious about these numbers.
Yes, our numbers have not changed, they've gone up.
Yeah.
Just for context, these numbers come from something we have to provide. It's in the report it's called the maintenance of effort. So these are the general fund contribution I added just for context, but the other numbers come directly from that report.
And then just one more, numbers question about this is the non-federal cost, and then you mentioned a state contribution. So there's also a state contribution that is factored in, and then after the federal contribution and the state contribution, that's when our general fund kicks in.
You have great questions, by the way. So these numbers are based on the state and local contributions. There's also a federal, it is very small, but there is a federal component that is backed out of this maintenance of effort. It's a state requirement, so they back out the federal grants.
Okay. So this is when we talk about the federal cost, this is what we talk about when we talk about the IDEA contribution that the feds pay 40% of or are supposed to, but don't, and this is
non-federal cost.
Right, okay.
So everything
So this is
excluding the IDEA
everything's
funding.
excluded. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
I just make one comment. On this report, in year 3, we are now above our 20% reserve. I want to call that out. That's really, we were watching
Yes.
that. And that's a function of the increased revenue. We got surprised. Actually, I wasn't surprised because that's been a pattern where we get surprised in the last month, but I'm glad that Arthur's talking to Greg Monteverde at the assessor's office to.
And it's a good surprise.
It was a good
Yes.
surprise.
Yeah.
So that's good. Yeah,
So we're
Thank
still on the 20%.
above 20% for all 3 years.
Good.
Yes.
Well, before negotiation.
Not to be doomsday, but for now.
Yeah.
Still work to be done, but we're on the job.
Perfect. Good. So thank you very much for make this so clear and easy for us and to make the numbers talk so eloquently. And with that, we're gonna move to the next item. And
Vote.
oh yes, we're gonna vote to approve. Everybody who wants to approve, please say aye. Aye. Okay, everybody votes aye. And with that, we're gonna move to the next item. I think we are clear until 9:30, isn't it? We don't have to extend. Yeah, we have plenty of time. So that will be, the next item will be 10B, which is the approval of the resolution 2503 in the matter of the California Proposition to Public Facilities Bond Measure.
Yep, so this is the resolution that we got from CSBA. AXA had a version of it as well, actually, of the whole Ed Coalition is urging support of Proposition 2, which could potentially benefit Sunnyvale School District, but whether or not it does, it is my recommendation that we support this proposition for the betterment of public education.
Perfect. So before that, if there is any member of the public who wishes to speak on this particular item, which is 10B, please, this is the time. Okay, seeing none, then we move forward. Do we have a motion on this 10B item?
I move approval of resolution 25-03 to be in favor of California Proposition 2, called the Public Education Facility Bond Measure.
Okay, do we have a second?
One second.
Okay, and with that, we can open discussion if there is any comment or discussion related to this. Good, let's do it. And I think it's great. It may not directly influence us other than in the probably taxes or fees, but it's great that the schools are gonna do better. Perfect, so if everybody is pro 10B, please say aye. Aye. With that, we approve 10B. And we move to the next item, which is the 10C, approval of resolution 2504 in the matter of GAN application limit.
You do from there.
Oh, from here?
Yeah, if you want. Well, maybe not. Only big things you do up there.
All right, so, before you have the, here we go. Before you have the resolution, for your approval. This is the GAN appropriation limit. Our state constitution requires us to prepare this calculation. It's designed to constrain state and local spending by linking year-over-year expenditures to per capita income and ADA changes. I don't have much to report other than the resolution is on the agenda, and the calculation is, I think pages 3 and above.
Perfect, thank you. If there is any member of the community who wishes to speak on this particular item 10C, please, this is the time to do so. Seeing none, we move forward. Do we have a motion to approve item 10C from the board?
I move approval of resolution 25-04 in the matter of, again, appropriation limit.
A second?
I'll second.
Okay, if there is any comments or discussion regarding this item? Okay, seeing none, please everybody who wants to approve this item say aye. Aye. Okay, with that, no nays, with that we approve the item 10C. Now we move to the next item, which is 10D, is the approval of the resolution R2505 in the matter of the recognition of the Hispanic Heritage Month 2024. Please go ahead.
Yes, so our board president brought this forward to recognize Hispanic Heritage Month. As you can see in the history, it used to be Hispanic Heritage Week. It would begin on Monday, September 15th, and go for 1 month until October 15th. And that is the official month that it's celebrated. And it coincides with, I only knew 16 de Septiembre, but now I found out about the other days too, so that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There are 5 countries in Latin America that have their Independence Day. There is also the Day of the Braves, which is normally October 12th. Yes. Okay, if there is any comment from the public who wishes to speak on this particular item 10D, this is the right moment. Please do so right now. Okay, seeing none, then we move forward. Do we have a motion on this particular item?
Let me get back to it. I move approval of resolution R 25-05 in the matter of recognition of Hispanic Heritage Month 2024.
Okay, any second?
I'll second.
Okay, with that, do we want any comment or questions regarding this item?
I wanted to say thank you for the history in the here. I didn't know previous to this why it was celebrated in that particular time frame. Because most months are beginning of calendar month to end, but this was very informative and thank you.
So I appreciate about the context. But structurally, we need to figure out how we're gonna be implementing this from a structural perspective and what it did. And I'm wondering if it doesn't diminish in certain terms the fact that we're respecting individuals for their cultural heritage every day. But I appreciate that it is a point of information, but I just want to I'm still struggling with our concept about what the purpose of a resolution is. And if this is to be a single resolution for this individual year, or if there's intentionality around doing this on an ongoing basis. We just don't have a structural mechanism to put that into policy. And so I would like to have additional discussion at some point in time.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So Isabel actually start putting together an agenda item that we can discuss at our next meeting on just that topic, like the broader discussion. Dr. Dean has also, I'm gonna send you a little bit of information in the weekend update, has started to gather information from our partners at Quetzal and from the Anti-Racism Institute about best practices around these things. So we'll be anchored in that, which is really 2 organizations that have supported us. So I think those are good questions. And we're planning on that for the next meeting.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't, by the time I finished the resolution, there wasn't time to, it was recommended not to put it on this particular agenda. But it came also with the other, as we are doing all this equity work and anti-racism and anti-bias work that we've been doing for the last few years, it has come together with that work and our new strategic plan about the supporting of our community, not just because we have 48 of our students being Hispanic, but also on all the communities that we have and following with the same principles and strategic plan and our equity work for over all these years. And also adding a little bit that last year when we were talking more about a particular group, it was come to attention that it was more meaningful instead of just doing things like the annual, instead of doing just like a particular resolution for ever and ever in a particular group, in that case was the LGBTQ community, just doing it as an annual group and following not just other big, not just the county and other organizations locally, but also we are trying to come up with a schedule similar to Yale and Stanford and Harvard that have every year come out with a resolution that lines up with the type of group that they serve, and recognition not just to follow every year, but as they say, like in a particular month when it's nationally accepted, be reminder of that work towards that community.
I think in the future, if we do this every year, I would appreciate if the resolution was updated to make it timely and meaningful for this particular moment in time.
Yeah.
I also am curious.
What do you mean?
I mean, like,
just give me an example, I don't disagree.
So in like 2020, during this, had we done some sort of Black History Month, we should have said something historically about the historical context of the George Floyd protests, for example, right? Something, and if something is happening that is, I'm saying that maybe this resolution could have included something about Haitian immigrants not eating dogs. Like something that is timely and meaningful to this particular moment.
We
Something
will
like
add it because there
We
is a
don't have to.
particular
It's just-
moment when we're gonna come up with, do you have my other resolution? With the particular month when we come with the Asian month, which is there's 1 month, but at least we identify, or I put it on my resolution, at least 6 or 7 months during the year that we will be adding. And for example, this year, there is a national
Is this a
theme.
discussion that we're going to be having next time?
Next week.
Yeah, this is a
Because
discussion we're gonna have
this-
next.
This particular month is related
So this is
to
an audience
how Hispanic month was, this year has a particular topic that it was chosen centrally somewhere in Washington, probably, but this is the year, I think it says over there something about uplifting or something like that. So every organization, normally there is a central organization, probably in Washington, they say this annual year, the Black History Month is gonna be so-and-so, or the Hispanic Month is called this or that. And that's why this, in the resolution, this year is called in a particular way.
I wanna add that for this particular resolution that, we're talking about, I do think that I would appreciate this being communicated out in maybe a little bit more than usual, maybe Aaliyah can send a special highlight of this to our teachers, and so families are aware of it.
Maybe, I'm a little concerned because it says that we're recommending that they take certain actions, and it starts Monday, and that's the problem with the timeliness of it, right?
Okay.
We haven't had any time to prepare anyone for that, but if we were to do it regularly, then, and we go through our process that we're gonna start next month about our next meeting, about what do we mean by these, then we could get into some sort of system where teachers would know what to do.
Okay.
I don't wanna blindside them.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's very fair. Thank you.
Okay, so everybody in favor to approving this resolution, which is the item 10D, please say aye. Aye. Any nay? Okay, seeing none, then we approve item 10D. And with that, we're gonna move to the last item for tonight, item 11, future meetings and adjournment. It will be Thursday, September 26, 2024 at 6 p.m. It will be a regular board meeting. And before we leave, I would like to thank our translators. That is a very hard job, and thank you for staying all this time. And all the meetings will be recorded, and probably most of the people who will be watching will be in the next weeks, and they're also in Spanish. Thank you very much, and meeting will be adjourned at 9:11 as it was this week, and we forgot to appreciate that this week was 9/11, but here we are, 9.
And I'd like to announce I am officially a member of the Bishop PTA.
Hey.
So everyone from here over.
Well, if we're gonna go on the record correctly, I am a national member.
Oh, I don't know what, I don't want to.
If we're gonna go on the record the right way.
We'll see your national.
Sorry.